There, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, there we go. Sup, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Silver and Johnny for the Best Gaming Podcast number 476 to talk about the Game Fest that's coming up. I almost even messed up the name because we just talked about how that name is like everything else. And Xbox more leaks about what's coming out there, as well as a bunch of games we've been playing and new games coming out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you get a chance, tweet this out. I posted this unlisted on the channel because I want to see how that affects viewership over the long-term period of this podcast in particular, because I'm trying to decide if we want to switch it to a different channel. And remember that Wednesdays, for a small amount of time, will not have podcasts, or, well, I don't know, maybe forever. We're trying to figure out exactly what's going on with the algorithm and trying to sort of figure it out. So if you got here via the community post, I would like to know if you're listening. That would help out the channel immensely to figure out how everybody's getting in here. I'm assuming most of them are from Discord. That's usually how it ends up going. But welcome to these guys, and let's just begin. What are you guys playing? Johnny, you want to go first?
Yeah, I've been playing Elden Ring. I'm trying a new build, exploring a bunch of stuff, and is having a good time in it.
What's the new build?
The new build is like fire centric. So anything fire
Pyromancer or
is acceptable. Not necessarily Pyromancer, like throwing out fire, but buffing with fire.
Right.
I like those kind of melee fire spells where you have to walk up to someone but you blow something up in their face type thing.
Right.
I don't enjoy the projectile stuff as much.
Right.
But then again, I haven't gotten to some of the better spells later on, or incantations later on. So I'm still exploring, but that's sort of the idea. I'm playing around with different weapons. I got an amazing flail. It's like a triple flail. That's pretty cool. That's like sacred infused because I have faith for the incantations. So it's been a cool, just exploring a bunch of different weapons. Last time I kind of stuck with my niche of big ass halberds and dual wielding halberds and just like jumping on people with those.
Right.
That's pretty much, my playthrough in a nutshell. So it's been cool to just try out a bunch of different weapons.
That's been it for you for the most part for this week?
Yeah, pretty much.
Excellent. What about you, Silver?
I haven't really had the time to play very much. I've still been able to get in some Ghost of Tsushima and upload it to my channel, and then some Warhammer 3 still on the side. That's mostly been what I've been able to do.
What do you, are you liking Ghost on the PC? Does it feel like a massively different experience?
I wouldn't say it feels massively different, but like the higher frame rates and stuff does genuinely. I mean, it's not that the frame rates were terrible on the PS5, because they definitely weren't. But I mean, also I think just maybe also just sitting closer to my monitor also helps.
Yeah, true.
In the feeling of response time and whatnot. But so it's been a little smoother in that regard. But I mean, it looks and runs beautifully. The issue I had with the lighting initially has resolved itself with the latest drivers that I installed. So thankfully that seems to have been fixed. So it's just been smooth sailing on that front. Although there has been some like internal issues. Like with connecting to Sony sometimes when playing the Legends mode.
Right.
But that's been pretty rare.
So what does it do? Does it kick you out or just stop you from playing a little bit, or what's it do?
It legitimately like prevents you from going into the mode because it doesn't want to lock you on to like Sony's system or whatever it is.
Oh, gotcha.
So it just prevents you from going into Legends mode.
So that is one of the things that I think will pop up here, right? With all of these games, is that chance of it not basically the chance of us seeing titles that are primarily single player, where you can still play it single player, but when you try to go to the multiplayer, if you don't have whatever Sony's thing or you get a bug, you can't go into the multiplayer part, but you're still able to play the single player without any issues, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Like
So it doesn't stop
it
you
did
from
it did not affect the ability to play the single player campaign.
Great. Great. Cool. I'm glad to hear it because, I mean, that'll be a thing with Sony now coming up, right? It's going to be, I mean, they're going to want to push it and you're going to want it to be as smooth as humanly possible.
And I mean, we've seen it with always online games like Hitman's World of Assassination, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where the online server issues sometimes prevent you from even playing that game.
Yeah, the game itself.
Single player. Yeah.
Yeah, Hitman really made a mistake in how they did. See, Hitman has done great stuff, but occasionally they make some really stupid decisions. I'm hoping I'm excited for this next one. Like, I'm super excited to see whatever they do with it. Yeah, because I think that I love Hitman, and I want to see another Hitman. I think another Hitman is going to be exciting, but the idea of them doing Bond also excites me because it's just different. And I don't know. I mean, they've got the assassination stuff down, right? I mean, it's obvious they've got that down. They've got the killing.
I think even more so than the assassination stuff. What has me really excited for them doing Bond is what I think they really have nailed down is the level design and the set piece, which I think is going to be key to any Bond game.
Yeah, dude, in the new one, there were some amazing locations. Like, just fantastic locations. Games where, you hear people say there's no stealth games. I think they're right. There's less stealth games. But that in particular, obviously, to me, for the most part, is a stealth game. For sure. Social stealth. And they nailed that shit. They nailed it so well. Have you been playing?
If you think about it, by the way, just on that, it's the only stealth game where you can actually just walk around freely. And that's really enjoyable because you get to see what people are doing, because there's this whole ecosystem, people are doing stuff. So like some of the key targets, they're maybe having a meeting or, they're doing things. It's pretty cool to explore and see, oh, this guy is up to this. Yeah. And that type of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. For me, let's see, what have I been playing? I did The Altars. There's a short that I put out. The video will go out tomorrow. Previewed that. And it's stunning. I mean, it's stunning. It's beyond, it is way beyond what I expected that game to be. So if anybody doesn't know what The Altars is, basically it's a title that's a mix of like a little bit of Fallout Tactics with base building. You're on an alien planet. Your base is this massive unicycle fucking space wheel. And you roll around the planet trying to escape the light of dual suns that'll destroy you if you get caught in the full brightness, sort of like Chronicles of Riddick, the third movie. And as you're doing so, you finally come to the realization, because everything is done in time, sleeping, everything in the game, every single thing you do takes an allotment of time. And your character realizes quite quickly that they can't continue to do the job that is required of them. So they go to this computer, and this quantum computer knows every memory you've had, but it can remember the big decisions and then use quantum like reality and quantum mechanics to grab a clone from a different timeline. So for example, if you broke up with a girl, he can go back or this computer can go back and find when you broke up and choose the person who didn't break up and see where they are. And that person will have skills like for example, one is you didn't leave home, you stayed at home to help your mom and dad. So that means you became a technician, a very good one. So when you grab that clone, he's a technician. But he's a really good technician. His social skills are shitty. So when he comes in, he's a dick. And so he shows up and he's a jackass to you. He's always, even like his little mind thoughts are like dissension, anger, all that stuff. And you have to figure out a way to get the clones to all work together. And so you're making a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone of a clone. And obviously the same things you would expect to go wrong do. But it is gorgeous, incredible music, and so far some of the best gameplay in that style, because it's a mix, almost like Telltale, but not, because there's way more activity you can do. So imagine Sims and Telltale mixed together. That's sort of how this comes together. And I got to tell you guys, man, I was playing it, and that's the first time in the history of the channel I was incredibly angry when it was over, because I wanted to continue playing that game so far. And are there bad parts? Of course. There's he's a little janky. Also, have you guys ever played those games where there's like almost no animation between walk and run? That's the way this guy is. Yeah. So I'm in the middle. It sort
really
of
bothers me.
It does me too, but I gotta admit, this is not giving it an excuse. I'm just explaining the atmosphere. I felt like he was so stressed for time because he doesn't know how to figure anything out. He has to use a computer. He's not that
Right.
It made me feel like those times. Have you ever tried to grab a pop and for whatever reason your body doesn't grab it, you poke it and it just like flies off a table? Like your brain, two and two aren't making four. That's the way this character is. And it's fucking awesome. Like the story, it's the type of Telltale. I say Telltale. I want to make sure people don't think it's like that, but it's got the story depth of a Telltale, but the actions of Sims. Because a lot of stuff,
Right.
you'll be like drilling outside and it's counting down the time, and everything goes in a blur, like a TV show when they speed up a montage. And everybody's going in a blur. They're trying to show the bank heist being planned, and instead of showing
Time
them
compression
slowly,
or
yeah. And the way it's done is straight movie. It's like, as people are like moving around, you're making food, and I won't.
time lapse.
I'll just say the one so far, the best event I've had, the best event so far, was I finally got this clone to somewhat calm down. And I decided you can choose, share hatreds you both have, share memories you both have. I said, let's share memories. One memory was our mom making, what is that, pierogi, I think is what it's called. And, or these like dumplings. And you decide to try to make them with the food replicator mush shit that is probably, I don't know, poop. I don't know what's in that machine. But it's not anything from Star Trek. It's like a gelatinous mass, and you try to make it. And at this time where you're sitting down, you have these hilarious memories of like, remember when Mom made it, and then we made it the next time, and it was terrible, and she pretended to like it, and you sort of both give each other like a, like a fist bump, as you both had that memory because it was prior to the split. And
yeah,
I mean, yes, there's some graphics issues, especially the animation issue. I can see juggling 10 versions of myself being infuriating because they all have different attitudes. And I could see like, even it was difficult to get this guy to calm down with just one. And they move around on their own. So my assumption is if 2 or 3 don't like each other, you might have a situation where, I don't know if there's murder. There could be a fight.
So dude, is it all of like the same person?
Yes,
in the
but they
colony?
look different. So like
They
my
look
guy's
different.
like
Yeah, I'm looking
my
at
guy's sort of like the everyday man, and then the technician's got like this crew cut. He always has a smirk, and he's really snide. And you can choose to be snide back, but you have to understand that if you do that, you don't know what their attitude was. You don't know if they'll react like you would react. That's the cool thing, guys. Here's the big question I came up with at the end. Who is the fucking main character of this? Is it the guy who calls the clone to help him? Or like a lot of movies where you find out you're a clone, like Twilight Zone or Sixth Day or whatever it was with Schwarzenegger. What if you find out that they're the main character? And so I got this weird, especially because you can switch between them. I started getting this weird, like dual narrator brain freeze where I was like, wait a minute, like who is real? And it's awesome. I mean, that part of it is great. There were definitely issues,
sweet
like
too,
I said,
man.
with movement. Yeah,
it looks very cool.
It's got an Oblivion aesthetic for like antiseptic interiors. The Oblivion movie with Tom Cruise where things are white and almost too shiny. But then because you live there, your bed has crumpled up.
Very sterile.
Yeah, it's very sterile everywhere except where you go because you're a disaster. Because you have no skills. You start out really being the guy who just lived. That's it. By pure luck. Everybody else died. And so far, man, that hit every mark I expected and some I didn't. So I'm really excited for that. I think that will do well.
Colony is awesome. So it has this like wheel colony.
Incredible.
And it reminded
and it's like
me
Fallout
of
Tactics where you put the buildings. Yeah.
Or XCOM with the rooms.
The rooms in XCOM. Yeah, the HQ.
This War of Mine, this type of thing. So I really like that.
11-bit's knocking it out of the park, dude, because they're doing that one and Frostpunk, and I got to test both of those out. And Frostpunk was also, I feel,
you were
more enjoyable than the original
overall.
Yeah, because I had, remember I had some issues with the original where I felt like everybody's going to put the kids into slavery.
It was pretty dictated. They wanted you to go down the path of like, sending the kids to the mines, which is fine, but like you said, not a lot of diversity.
Yeah, the preview video will go out tomorrow, but so far this is just a preview. It could fall apart. I bring that up in the video where I'm like, the big problem is balancing this many characters. Does it become a mess? Have you guys ever tried to run a multiple family household in The Sims? It's a disaster. You just don't have the brain power to run these guys with autonomy. And they do have autonomy. They do their own things. So I'm expecting complaints. The great thing about this game is sleeping even matters. You choose how long you want to sleep. The longer you sleep, the more you can work the next day. So you start getting... Have you guys ever had those weeks where at the end of the day, you're not ahead, you're like behind by one? Even though you got stuff done, you have one extra project. Then the next day, you have two because it's starting to bunch up. By the time Fridays, you've got 5 extra projects. That's sort of how this started to work out. And so his panic of going, I need somebody like to help me, and this quantum computer being like, well, why don't you try this? And
sounds very similar to the plot of the Michael Keaton movie
Multiplicity. That's what I felt. I bring that up in the review. That is exactly, except so far I haven't got any quirky ones like the dude shaving his own tongue with the Bic razor in Multiplicity, but I'm hoping I do because I would love the idea of that. Also pretty heartfelt. Not spoiling anything, but there was some stuff in the timeline that was pretty rough stuff in the timeline. So for your character,
like some dark stuff, like sci-fi stuff.
Yeah. And different the ways in which one character may have dealt with it versus the other character, and then what that split will be. Because one, like I said, became a technician, so it makes sense to bring him in. But I need to know where the other splits happen, because some of those characters could be either terrible people or maybe not want to work. Like lazy, like you have no clue. I have no clue. But graphically, really good. Gameplay is really good. Very alien feeling when you're exploring the world. There was an older game called the, was it Pavlov? No, it wasn't that. There was a space game I reviewed years and years ago. It was also on VR, and it had eye tracing for the better rendering. Let me look at this notes here. Can't remember, but it's got a lot of different feels to it, and it's one of the first games I can say feels like it puts them all together. So in chat, what have you guys been playing? What titles? Let's see. Good evening. What's up, Lucitan? What's up, William? Yeah, just a reminder, like I said, for now we're trying to figure out what to do with the podcast, how to get it on here, and sort of see what we're doing with how we do the announcements. So I appreciate it. I would also love to know if you got the announcements via the community post, which it looks like a couple of you have, and that's awesome that works. And we will continue to do something no matter what on Wednesday. I just have to figure out what it is, even if it's I don't know, maybe it's maybe it's just an audio podcast. I have no clue. I have to figure it out and figure out what Absy's schedule's like, but it seems like it's pretty open for Wednesday. Moving on from there, let's talk about Gamefest. So Gamefest is what, 2 p.m. today? Pacific time? Is that what Johnny, is that what we figured out?
I believe it's at the usual ending time of the podcast, which is 9:30 p.m. my time. So that would be 4:30 p.m. EST. And then from there, I'm super bad at this. Somewhere around midday.
Yeah, because it looks like it's 11
Let me
here.
do it better.
Well, it's 11 here. It comes on at 2, so it's basically 2 hours from now. But yeah, I don't know if you guys saw it.
Sorry, just to confirm, it's 2 p.m. PDT. There you go.
Yeah, Pacific time. Okay, yeah. So one thing Jeff said was to make sure that you keep your expectations low. I sort of liked that. But I do expect to see a lot. It's a ton of hours. It's a ton of events over the weekend. Then you have the Xbox event. Did you guys watch Asmongold's stream that he did day before? Okay. So that one, they covered a bunch of indie games. They're indie games. They're really eclectic, I guess would be the proper term. I did see some titles in there that looked interesting to me. Like there were a couple, but it was definitely almost felt like a game jam. Where it's like you have, that's what it felt to me. And props to him for actually showing those, because we'll talk about advertisements and how expensive it is to have a trailer on Gamefest. But there was a couple on there that I actually thought were pretty good. There were some cool interviews with some of the devs. they were having fun. I think that's cool. I know some people were getting on them, like because they're goofy, but it's like, you know what? Your indie guys get some PR, so I'm sure they're happy for that. I saw some very cool stuff in there. For Gamefest, is there anything? I know that we don't treat it the same way as a major event, but is there anything that you've heard's coming or anything you want to see? Or because we'll probably get some big titles as well as some small ones. Maybe what about IO showing Bond?
I mean, that would be great.
Are we there?
I'm not expecting it, but,
You're not?
But that would be great. I
We're
haven't heard anything, but I also haven't followed it, so.
Yeah, I don't know how big these titles will be. I don't know exactly what they're going to want to show. Is there anything ready to show for Warhammer? Is there any new? I think the new thing already popped for Warhammer, right? So there probably won't be anything for Total War.
They don't have anything to show for the time being, no. That'll still be probably a couple of months out.
Gotcha. Anybody in chat, any games you're looking forward to seeing? I would love to see Bond. I would love to see that kind of thing. I think that would be impressive to see. And also for them,
anything from Stalker, do you think we could see?
I think on the Xbox event we will.
Oh, yeah.
And we can merge all this discuss. It's on Sunday, but it's all games. It's all Game Fest, So yeah, Stalker, I would be surprised if we didn't see maybe the first, maybe a little hands-on demo, or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it feels like Stalker 1 is so far in my past that Stalker 2 has a fresh, can just do whatever it wants,
Completely separate.
Yeah. Do you guys have any expectations for peripherals? Because there's been all this AI stuff. There's been all this monitor stuff. I don't know if you guys have seen this shit, but now some of the companies are making AI readouts that can read out if your health is low in a game and give you a warning on the screen, which I feel weird is a little weird since that's already a warning on the fucking screen. So the idea that you get another warning telling you somewhere else that you might be low on health is a little weird. But
especially when in some games you'll get like an audio cue or something.
Or the red around your screen, or streaks of damage. It just feels a little. It feels like they're scraping the bottom barrel for trying to figure out what to cover.
I mean, I could see it from an accessibility standpoint as a peripheral for, say, if you're vision impaired, then getting audio feedback for it would be useful. And conversely, if you're blind. No, that was what I just said. Yeah, vision impaired, and if you're hearing impaired, getting visual.
Switching it up to get whatever
would be really
whatever sensory
useful.
Input you need. Yeah, that makes sense. That would be cool. It would also be cool if there was some kind of. We want games to already do this, and we're going to talk about this in just a second. But the color blindness, if you just had the feature built right into the monitor. Where you could just be like, boom, this is my color blindness. And from that point on, it just works. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know where that's all going. It feels like it's sort of up in the air. It feels like these guys are just dragging the bottom barrel for what they can add AI into. I'm going to get an AI beanie that'll switch colors. I can do LEDs on the sides.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Did you guys see that? Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say? I can bring it up in a second.
I was going to talk about games for Games Fest. So I don't know if you want to finish that thought.
No, go for it.
So I was kind of thinking, right? We saw the name change for a new Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
So do you think maybe we can see something from it? A little teaser? A little?
Yeah, I think we'll see something for sure.
Yeah.
Veilguard, right? Veilguard. Guard of the Veil.
Veilguard?
The Veilguard.
Yeah.
Did you see their reasoning for the change? I support their reasoning for the name change.
Yeah, because it's the focus is on the player.
Right. And they said as they played, they were just like, you know what? It's more about the player than it is always about. And I don't know, Dreadwolf to me was pretty,
It generic, isn't it? Kind of like.
Yeah. Veilguard is too, but at least it's generic on the player side where it's this group of people.
Yeah.
Which I assume
I think it's a better name. Not that it's a big deal, but.
Yeah, not that it's a big deal.
I agree. Also in the reference to the Veil. In Dragon Age.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited to see what they. So yes, BioWare's not the same. BioWare have been saying that for years. I don't care. I would like to see what they do. And we've had companies release bad games and turn around and release a good one. So I'll give them a chance. I like Dragon Age. I like some of Dragon Age content. It just depends. Did you guys, we all played all of them, right? Or wait a minute, Johnny may not have played like Origins.
No, I think I only played one of them. I don't remember exactly which one.
Inquisition, maybe?
Inquisition, probably.
Okay. Yeah. Silver, which was your favorite of the Dragon Ages? Was it?
The Origins overall. Yeah. I did enjoy Inquisition, honestly. Dragon Age 2, I had a lot of issues with.
Did you?
Yeah.
Same here. I didn't remember we had overlap there.
There was a lot of stuff in that game that just didn't work. Like the narrative decision of setting it in one city was interesting, but then they didn't really do anything with it. Like there was no sense that Kirkwall actually kind of developed or changed over that course of time, and the city itself seemed kind of dead as a location. There wasn't a lot of life there. For me, you also had the issue with combat where there were a lot of fights where you just had enemies coming in, basically repelling into more or less repelling into the encounters as reinforcements out of nowhere, which was pretty off-putting. Yeah, and there was some story stuff in that game as well that I think there were some wild tonal shifts in that game that really disconnected you from its narrative. I remember feeling. But I did enjoy, like I mentioned, did really like Inquisition actually, even in spite of some of its issues.
Yeah.
So I am hoping for a solid outing from the Veilguard.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to say, we'll be doing a live watch in our Discord for the Gamefest. We won't be doing it here because that's so recently, day before yesterday, broke a bone in my foot, and sitting down is killing me. It's already starting to hurt. So the idea of sitting down for another 2 hours is well beyond my ability.
It's already
killing me. Yeah.
I can imagine.
But we will be doing in our Discord. Yeah, Discord costs money, but also I'll tell you, it's hopefully it's the best $5 you'll spend. But we'll be doing stuff in there. I know a lot of people in the chat are from our Discord already, so we'll be jumping in. We'll probably all be watching it on our separate monitors and just yakking about what we see. So I'm excited to see it. But the idea of sitting here, Johnny was game as always to sit for an extra 2 hours. I don't know if Silver was, because I didn't feel like asking him, because I thought he'd be like, that's
but
that is a long
it is
time.
nice to watch in the Discord too, because we don't have the worry of having to if someone is talking, it's not a big deal. If we want to say
a little
something,
less desire
it's not like we're not trying to present a pristine version of the show in a way.
And Flip Cup, $5 super chat. Thank you as always, Flip Cup, for being a member of the Discord and the YouTube channel. Happy Friday, guys. Hope you all have a great weekend. Looking forward to chatting with everyone for SGF later.
Nice.
We also have a question that I thought was awesome. So normally we get all kinds of questions here, but actually this is sort of a well of creativity question, which I thought was awesome. So Smudge, who is a Discord, he's been since day one in the Patreon. He asks, where do you guys get your ideas for game videos or for music you make or for writing stories? Where does your well of creativity come from or start with? I couldn't fit all that in there. I actually thought that was interesting because it hits everybody. I think at least two of us write a lot. And then music, I know Johnny and I overlap on that. Johnny, of course, being an actual professional and me just hammering shit out until it sounds good.
No.
But do you guys find a specific way that you find creativity a little easier than, different than just I walk outside? Do you guys, how about this? Do you have a special place or a place that's been surprising where you've been like, oh my God, I want to write a story because I saw the Bastille or something? Like, what is there any unique thing that's worked for you?
Weirdly enough, I don't know about you, but it's silence. So I find that if I'm just, listening to stuff or watching something, my mind is just taken in, right? It's kind of like occupied with that or if I'm playing a game or something. But if I'm kind of like in silence or chilling, it could be listening to music, but it depends on the music. If it's maybe instrumental, where I'm not too focused on it, that's where it opens up this space where like thoughts start to emerge.
Mm-hmm.
And let's be honest, 90% of it is crap, right? It's like, you know, you're thinking about your next meal or something. But I think that it is very useful because it allows you to almost like catch up with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you are caught up, you have this really nice, positive, empty space where stuff comes up, where you say, oh, you know, I could do that in the song I was working on, or I could do that, you know, in the video this week. I could throw in something different, try something different. For me, that's where the creativity comes from mostly. And then dreams, by the way. Sometimes I wake up with a melody in my mind, and I record it, and later I work on that, and that becomes something cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I hadn't thought about dreams, but you're right there. Any for you, Silver? Any like?
I think chaos is probably the defining word for like my creative process, maybe. In that there's no consistent source that I can go to for mining it. It will come from 100 different sources or things that I'm doing, or it can come from a conversation. It can come from like listening to the radio or whatever. Like it'll hit. I think particularly when it comes to writing specifically, the most consistently I've gotten like inspirations have been late at night trying to sleep.
Gotcha.
Where something will pop up, like when you're kind of in between that the lucid state and the dreaming state. That tends to be a state where I don't know, where I tap into something that where something will hit me, and I have to go write something down or something, and then I can sit down and like write for sometimes hours, and the words will just flow. But it's very rare for me to be able to force creativity. It is something that has to sort of come naturally for me. But thankfully, I found that it does a lot of the time in the stuff that I choose to do.
Yeah, mine is easy because it's games that I'm playing, so that's easy. But other stuff that it's what I don't see on YouTube. This is not, there's nothing positive about this, nothing better about what I'm talking about than anybody else. But I usually try to shoot the gap and not do. So if people are freaking out about something, I'll usually try to find something that's not freaking out about something, because either you're going to get lost in the freak out, or it's just the same shit. And right. So usually I'll try to go to something that no one's talking about, because that's usually where I get fresh ideas without overlapping somebody else's ideas. So if somebody's complaining about a company or complaining about something, I'll talk to you guys about it in the podcast. And then in the video, I might do something completely different. Is it great for the channel? No, it is not. But it is great for me mentally, because after this many years, I'm not burned out. And every single person that I know of who's even started after me has been like, I'm taking a vacation, I'm burned out, I'm slowing down, I'm speeding up. And there's almost, you can see videos where it's like, okay, I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff. Okay, I'm going to take some time off. Oh, I'm going to be, and you see that. And it happens easily. And the reason why I haven't really had those issues, other than power outages and technical issues, is because I do try to shoot the gap and look at different things. When it comes to writing, I'm with Silver. I will write a bunch of shit down at night. There's something that I'm clinical in the morning, and I can do clean writing if I need to. Right. If I'm trying to set up a game for the friends or trying to write out an instruction for a student, morning is when I do it. But then in the afternoon, my brain is like, fuck anything clean. Like this is, and it just starts coming out with random shit from about 8 p.m. to about 3 a.m. So I'll be laying in bed and I'll hear my wife groan because I grab my HDR fucking tablet, turn it on. It's 1,000 nits of brightness, and and she can hear me. Just and she's like, what are you doing? And I got this idea, and that idea may go nowhere, but it's I think that writing them down is really useful. Some people journal, but writing them down, man, you'll come back to it like a song idea. you know, sometimes I'll record, hit record and make the sound. I'll be like, this is a song idea. I like the intro for this. And then other times I'll write a sentence. And so one thing I would suggest to people is find a document system out there that is everywhere. I use Evernote, but there's other ones. And Evernote lets me actually talk into a note, and you can see it writing on other screens, which I've done. So I'll have like the typing version up on the PC. I'll be using the Android and dictating an idea into the Android, and I can see it typing. So anybody can write on it. So like if we wanted to do the podcast notes, I could send you a link. You guys could type, and it's a live document. That's really helpful for late at night, coming up with an idea, waking up. It's not lost. I used to send myself emails that were so confusing at night. It'd be 11 at night, and I'd send an email with a subject that was like idea. And idea for fucking what? And then I'd blurb out something that didn't make a lot of sense 2 days later, where I'd be like, what does SGF1 mean? And I'd figure out later it was like the Robotech main ship. I had an idea for an enemy in a game. But I was like, if you don't connect those. So good connections and good journaling, or whatever you want to call it, are useful. And I also want to say thanks for that question, because that's a different style of question. And we all do different stuff like this.
There is something powerful about writing it down, whether it is physically writing it down or, like you say, dictating or whatever it may be. There is something where you engage that circuitry in your brain, and it actually kind of like becomes easier the next time. So the next time you have a cool idea, it becomes easier for you to retain it, or
Absolutely.
Also, because there's no guarantee that your brain will necessarily store the great idea.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Oh, dude, and it doesn't. Like what I was saying, that I sometimes wake up with a cool melody or something in mind. If I don't immediately record it, even if it's terrible, just the idea, I will lose it. And I could have it clearly in my mind right when I wake up, but just in minutes, it's...
And I'm sure everybody in chat and you guys can appreciate there are few things more frustrating, more damning, and more of a reminder of humanity than something on the tip of your tongue that you know is important. And when you are at 11 a.m. and you can't remember something that happened at 8 a.m., you're like, I for sure have Alzheimer's. There's absolutely no chance I could have forgot that, but we are all human. Your brain gets busy doing other stuff. I also think Johnny's idea of silence, I like white noise, but any kind of...
that works really well.
Yeah, when you turn the
rain,
stuff off.
That type
rain
of stuff,
is awesome. The bathroom, the fan in a bathroom.
Oh,
so many writers I know, professional writers, will do their best writing looking at a wall, and it's just the fan noise. And they're like...
Yeah, or a laundry machine, this type of for sure.
Dude, there's something awesome about a soft sound of a laundry machine, too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
that's one of the things I've really come to appreciate about smoking a pipe every now and then. Sitting outside.
Moment of relaxation.
Relaxation, quiet. Just meditative in that way.
I know that, especially in martial arts, especially in fighting games, they'll tell you to fight from both sides, left going right, right going left, otherwise you get accustomed. I know for martial arts, they'll teach you that. But in writing, one of the things you also hear is take the walk backwards. If you normally do a walk around your block, go the opposite way, and your brain will see everything brand new. It'll be like, well, I haven't seen this before, because it all really is. It's all that completely different shift in the paradigm, and it helps out. So again, thank you very much for that question. That was awesome. Back to the events. So there's been a bunch of leaks about the Xbox event. I want to talk about some of them because it's been a heated debate since 15 years ago. It feels like it's just always about who's doing what game on what system, and this Xbox thing has just continually been a rigmarole back and forth of who's going to be showing what game. Is Microsoft going to go full multi-plat? Are they going to go half multi-plat, quarter multi, sometimes plat? Can I point out that the one thing I wish people would remember is it's not just PlayStation, it's Nintendo as well, because that's what excites me about all this. People are talking about being on PlayStation. That's great. But this is a whole new avenue for PlayStation company as well if they chose to do this. Square, we know Square just announced multiplat's done for them. They're done. Or sorry, exclusives are done. They're pretty much going multiplat. And I'm excited to see a Switch 2 have some of these games. I just want to point that out before we jump in, because it's always about Sony and Microsoft, and it's because the Switch has been so old since the day it came out, it feels like. So
Yeah.
it's cool to see some of these. But some of the rumors have also been around Halo and getting a remaster / remake. And I wanted to get you guys' opinion on this because Master Chief Collection has Halo 1 in it. It's a part of the entire thing. So if Microsoft doesn't want to put all of Halo's on PlayStation 5, they have to separate it. Plus, I think Halo, you could say, in the scheme of things, could be due a remake. I don't believe it is, but you get it's been long enough, is I guess what I'm saying. I think this fits perfectly if they wanted to do it everywhere. I do think that's a big push for Halo to be on other stuff, but maybe it's also an indicator that Halo still has lost a bit of its zeitgeist anyway, and that it's not so much of a thing anymore as it used to be. But I wanted to get your guys' opinions. Would you play, regardless of system, do you care about a Halo remaster / remake? Let's say it's a remake, so it's Unreal by that time, 6, who knows? But it's Unreal. Does a new Halo Master Chief number 1, just number 1, remade in today's graphics, does that appeal to you? Do you return to it or do you not?
I do not.
You do not. Why?
I mean, it would be the third time for me.
Right. So original 360 remake. Oh no, wait. What would that be? Original 360 remake and then Master Chief?
Yeah.
Those 3? I see. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's a lot of Halo, even if they do remake it. What about you, Johnny?
Well, I have a different situation, which is I only played a couple of Halos, Halo 3 and one other, which I don't remember. So I would actually like the opportunity to dive into some of the older ones. I know they still kind of hold up, but I am pretty
definitely in the
sensitive
Master
to,
Chief
like,
collection. Yeah.
older looking. Yeah, they look better. I would still not. Let's put it this way. I'm saying no to that Master Chief version, but I would say yes to a current version of that.
I think that's
story.
fair.
That would be a good
Yeah, it
gateway
is.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would assume you also might not be the rare bird out there because the Master Chief collection came out years ago and was trash for years until it was improved. So a lot of people, I think, have a bad impression of that one. So a new remake might get
It
people
still gets
invested.
a bad rap. Just the name has a bad taste in people's mouths.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was the 360 remake I thought was good, where you could hit the button and see the old graphics and the new graphics. I thought that was great.
Yeah. I played that on PC, actually, that version where you could see both.
Oh, did you? Where you could see both?
Yeah, I think it was
graphics.
Halo 2 or something.
I think it.
You can do it both.
Can you?
Combat
I thought it
Evolved
was...
and Halo 2.
No shit.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I thought it was just one.
Yeah,
that was a cool feature.
Both of them.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. I like that idea too, because it gives you a little nostalgia and you get to see what, you turn on that old game you thought was amazing, and then you look at it and you're like, damn.
It was funny too that in one version it was a baked cutscene, and in the other it was like
real time.
Engine.
Yeah, in engine. Yeah, that's awesome. Real quick, reading some of these super chats. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats. They do help out the channel, and I appreciate people giving me information on how they got here. I definitely appreciate that. I believe notifications were turned off for this one other than the community post, but if anybody got a normal video notification, I would also like to hear that. I might have messed up in how I did it. We're trying some new things. Love the games. $2 super chat says, I think they need to hand Halo away from 343.
Oh.
I get what you're saying, but I don't agree. I think that their issues, Bungie had issues as well. Even though I love they definitely, those issues were already cropping up. So, but I get what he's saying. I mean, dude, I get what he's saying. It's definitely games are a sign of their times, right? Sometimes they're just not going to catch on anymore. They're not going to, we've seen our fair share of militant first/third person shooters with the main hero being an armored dude, and it's not as special anymore. It's like, I don't know if there's anything bad to say about that. That's just sort of the way it is. It's just sort of the way it goes with games. I would like to see what Unreal would do, because here's my problem, guys. Halo looks a certain way, and it is not photorealistic. And I don't want it to be. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to see like detailed textures on like ground and dirt is one thing, but the fantastical feel in the saturated colors of Halo, if they went like, let's say they tried to do, I'm not going to call it gritty and ultra realistic or Gears, but if they tried to go with a super detailed version, I don't know if that would light my fire. It feels like, it would, there's certain things that you like about games. Speaking of that, did you guys see there's a new Hitman VR game coming out, remade, and it's going to be cel shaded. So they're remaking the VR one that went out terribly, that came out like last year or the year before. They're remaking it, but they're using some kind of cel shading, I'm assuming, for graphics and performance. But it's a remade version of that in VR.
Didn't see the details, only the headline. And I thought it was actually a reference to the older VR.
The older one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of issues where
spawned a lot of very funny videos.
Martin says, I got a YouTube notification. Were they notifications of the video or were they the community? Got a notification on the YouTube bell thing. This might have went out wrong then, but that's fine. Yeah, dude, I don't know. Like a remake of a cel shaded Hitman in VR, that's a lot of niches. It's like, that's a narrow focus of people, because I think I like especially with VR, I like the graphic, or not VR, but Hitman. I like the graphics of the new one. They're a little bit more realistic. A lot of those tacked on effects, and so I don't quite know what I'm enjoying. What I want to get out of that. And then the other big rumor, and we do know that something has happened, is that we'll see a pretty big. And this has been backed up. I can say of all of these, this is the one that I've had backed up by two different people, which is that we're going to see a huge update for Starfield, including the Creator Club. So that's the one that I did hear was for sure happening. Whether that turns out to be true or not, I don't know. I think it's time. Starfield's been out for how long? How long Starfield been out for? Starfield came out in fall of last year.
10 months.
Last year, right?
Yeah. So it's time. But that was the only. Well, there was another couple, but the only one I want to speak on, which is there were people who were looking at the Steam database patches, and they could see that a ton of changes have been made, and big changes to this next Starfield update. So that's the guess, is that we'll see some Starfield Creator Club. And then there was a rumor about space station making in the future in Starfield, which I think is a missed opportunity already. So I would like to see that.
Oh, right.
I would love to see, making my own space station, but we'll have to see on that one. I don't know if anybody here at least is really incredibly interested in Starfield anymore. I am. I like to see these games and see sort of what happens as they continue on. But we got a super chat. Damaged Code, $2 super chat. Have you guys seen the new Steam release, Soul Mask? Yes, I have.
I have not.
So it looks pretty good. It's just one of those. It's an MMO that, at least from what I've been reading, has a rough start for the first hour or so, but then ends up sort of coming into its own in a different way. There are parts of it that are like Ark, and then parts of it that are like the typical MMO you might expect. But its name is popping up
survival,
a lot.
Or
yeah, a little bit, yeah. But I believe this is the one also, if I remember right. I heard somebody saying that the combat felt good in it, or at least it was more active combat than most MMOs. But honest truth, there's been a lot of MMOs released that are early access, so I could be wrong on the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was gonna mention it is early access.
Yeah.
So
yeah. J.K. Richardson says Starfield 9 months last September. Thank you very much. Interesting. 9 months. Let's see. What else do we got for leaks? We're not going to really cover most of these because a lot of them are just sort of back and forth. There's also rumors of a shadow drop, and that could be anything.
I think there are two things that are maybe likely. Maybe likely is kind of like
possibly maybe coming.
Possibly maybe coming. So you mentioned there were rumors of a new Doom game, and I think that
for
that
sure
could happen. Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, is Doom under Xbox? Because it's a Bethesda sub studio, right?
Yeah.
IP, IT, something. And so that's Xbox, right? That would probably be under their event.
It'll be under their event. Yeah. I would see that, even if it's for something else, Switch or PlayStation, I could still see them doing what Sony does and what Xbox has done in the past, which is show the game and then just say coming to Xbox, and then you find out 15 minutes after the show for
releasing on other platforms.
It's for your brand new Abacus. So
yeah, and the other thing I think is likely is Death Stranding 2. I think we'll see something from that, because you tend to see, Jeff do a lot of Kojima stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they have a good relationship, right? And they like to show off stuff in his events. So I have a feeling we'll see something.
Yeah, Death Stranding 2 is a weird one too, because a lot of the people I've talked to who are really big fans were a little questioning.
Yeah, I'm not too hot on it, but I'm open to open to seeing something.
I thought the puppet and shit looked cool, and then I saw other people saying that they have a fear of puppets. But what I saw looked, dude, it's Kojima.
Yeah, I think as always it's a mix of pretty cool creative ideas with some weird questionable stuff.
Yeah. Scotty Surf Shop says, this is from Discord. Thank you very much, Scotty, for being a Discord and patron for as long as you have been. What's your favorite cinematic card reveal in a game or a movie? Example being Halo 2's intro showing the title appear over Cauldron Lake. That is a good one.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with one that I've played recently, man. I actually think Assassin's Creed Odyssey nails it. With it over where it sort of pans over, and it's like Assassin's Creed Odyssey as you zoom towards everything. And I just thought that was really well done. But it's also because I played it recently. Movie ones are really good though. There's a lot of movie ones as well. A lot of good title reveals.
Oh yeah. I really like the ones in Fringe, which was the episode title.
Yeah.
It was a big bold
and written in 3D on the buildings or 3D, something like that. Shit was primo. Any from you, Silver? Because I don't know if you pay attention to these, but
for sure I do. If you want to go movies, I think for me probably the greatest opening opening title sequence I've seen in a movie ever is from Star Wars: A New Hope, particularly in the movie theater.
Example. Right
when you see the Rebel battlecruiser coming in, and then you see the Star Destroyer coming in above it. After you get the opening crawl, and like the long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, opening crawl, and then you get the Star Wars, and then you get the Rebel cruiser and the Star Destroyer, and you get
so good.
And when you see that in like a movie theater for the first time, and like the entire your seats are rumbling and everything from the engines of the Star Destroyer coming over the cruiser, you get the sense of the scale and like how intimidating the Empire is, and it's just that entire sequence is just completely masterfully executed.
I saw a recent video with him talking about that was what sold many people who were not sold on the movie. He had shown people the movie and they were like, and he didn't have some parts done, but that scene where you see the shadow over the top, it's so much bigger. And it gets sucked into
and
it's like
docking bay. Yeah.
Empire versus Rebels, and you see how big the Empire is. That's, by the way, they tried to repeat it in Return of the Jedi, where they showed the Super Star Destroyer putting the shadows over multiple destroyers, and it didn't hit as hard as that first one. That first one was sexy, though. I mean, that was like one of the best opening scrolls. Even Spaceballs joked around with it, with that ship that kept flying by for like 5 minutes and just scrolled that. And I remember laughing so hard in the theater going, thank God somebody noticed that. Like, that was such a good hit on Star Wars. But yeah, that's a great opening scroll. Looking in here, some Control had amazing title cards. Dead Captain James says. Ghost of Tsushima's my absolute favorite. Cheesy says. See, I remember Controls. I don't remember Ghosts.
I don't remember Ghosts at all. I know that Control and Alan Wake, they have the big bold letters, and that's just something that works for me personally. The clean letters, just like boom, the whole screen.
And sometimes that's all it needs to be, is what we're sometimes it's just like what works for you. There's a certain look or certain thing that speaks to you. Yeah, I definitely like I said, I do think that Fringes was one of my favorites just because
Yeah,
of the way
that
it sort of banged it
It-
out.
it
And that
wa-
was for me.
kind of blended. Yeah, very cool.
And I remember, like, for video games, like No One Lives Forever had like an opening credits sequence with a song and Kate Archer like dancing as the credits sort of moved, along with the title of like No One Lives Forever coming up.
They did such a
Like
good job on that.
That
game.
really worked for like setting the tone and standard of the game from that point on.
Yeah, they did a really good job on it. Thank you very much for that question. We appreciate it. It's a good question. Next up, Pickle Pounder says, "What do you guys like better as a name, Veilguard or Dreadwolf?" I think we
already answered that pretty much.
got that one.
We hit that one.
Pickle Pounder also says, "If a Civilization rumor is to be true, which is that there's a new one, what do you guys want to see from Civilization, the new one? Like, what do you want to see?"
I think there's a 95% chance that the leaks are accurate.
So do
I. Yeah, if not above that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, AI's good, but there's some things that I've been seeing that I'm like, that AI's not there yet. So that one appears to be real. Guys, I don't know. I'm okay with the game not changing. Civilization could clean up its HUD a little bit, could clean up AI, and I think enemy turns are much better than they used to be back when I played, where an enemy could take, it felt like 45 minutes to make its turn because the game was so complex. I don't know about you guys. I don't need to see much more from Civilization. They do a good job. It's what it is. It's not the NFL of strategy games, but, I mean, what else would they do?
Yeah, they don't have to reinvent the wheel, right?
Right.
Yeah. It works. It's a great niche. The people who like it love it. There's no reason to change. Because if you ask someone like me who doesn't play those games or only play the old ones, I would say, well, I want something fresh to get me into it. But that's not the right person to ask, right? You want to ask the people who already know and love, enjoy every single release of that. What do they want? And probably it's along the lines of more of the same.
Yeah, I mean, at some point also go ahead. Go for it.
It's also difficult for me to like personally to answer that question because I haven't really played Civilization a lot since 4. I think that was really the last Civilization game that I played extensively. I haven't played a lot of 5. Like,
dude, I played Civilization 6. 2. That was the latest type. Like, you had.
Yeah, I did play 2 as well. I mean, 2 is probably the one I've played the most.
Yes.
But I have played a lot of 4 as well. Which that soundtrack by Christopher Ting, amazing. But yeah, so
Christopher Ting did that soundtrack.
Yeah, Baba Yetu.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
The opening song for that.
Continue. Sorry.
Which won I think became the first video game soundtrack to ever win a Grammy.
Yeah.
Back then.
I wasn't aware he did.
But yeah, I mean, so I haven't played really 5 or 6, so I don't really know too much about the features of those games and what changes I would like to see for 7. Like Civilization's always worked as what it delivers, which is the historical progression through time as you're doing research, as you're teching up, as you get into arms races with other nations and stuff like that. Like the emergent narratives that form from your rivalries with the other civilizations, like Gandhi getting nuking everybody consistently and whatnot. That's always been the game's greatest strengths.
Yeah, I agree. Sometimes it's okay to sort of leave it. Stormlord, PYG 25,000 super chat. Kark. I think he meant Carrick, but Kark sounds better. People call me Kark. Turok. You tweeted about a game called The Axis Unseen a long time ago. It was the Guerrilla Collective. Game's looking awesome. Wishlisted thanks to you. No worries. I appreciate you doing that. Wishlists help a big amount for these people. So I can tell, you can definitely tell when somebody's getting
especially
a lot of
when they go to pitch it somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially if they're in the midst of work and maybe they decide they want to pitch it to get a little bit more investment.
Yeah, for the publisher or something. Yeah.
Very, very successful way of pushing it is those wish lists, because it just directly shows someone took the time to actually go there.
Yeah,
a less,
we have engagement
thumbs up
or interest or whatever. Yeah.
Let's see. shooting mechanics would make sense. Oh, they're talking about Halo, and then there were some people talking about. That's what I miss about South Park's older games, the PS2 era. It didn't need an epic narrative per se. It was just fun to go around. Oh, game's not switching. They're talking about opening credits. Doom Eternals was cool. The build up with the news reports and calls for help. Doom Slayer, locked and loaded title. That was Doom Eternal. I think I got Doom Eternal mixed up with the other one. Now that I think about it, I'm trying to think how Doom 2006 doesn't that just open straight?
Yeah, it just opens with you waking up from the sarcophagus.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah, you do. You just wake. It's like you're up, you're loaded, game on, and that's it. I like that. Johnny has in here that he wants to talk a little bit about the Amazon Yakuza show. So another show being based on a game. What do you think?
So for later this year, October or something, they said, I think. Well, we haven't seen anything about it, right? Not
Right.
even like shots of people from. I think Yakuza is possible to do. You know, when I think about other things like One Piece, those seemed way harder to portray in live action.
Mhm.
And actually, One Piece, I thought they did a good job with, surprisingly. So I think it's possible that they will do a good portrayal. I wonder what the combination of dark versus comedy it will be, because that balance is so delicate in the Yakuza games that I could see it going overboard one way or another. You know, if the comedy is too over the top, the drama part won't.
Did they
won't
say
work.
what it's going to be? Is it like Yakuza Man Who Erased His Name? Is it Yakuza 2? Is it based on, is it just Yakuza?
I haven't found any info on it. No, it's just a poster.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Go ahead, Silver.
Do you hope it'll take a specific Yakuza story, or do you hope it'll just base itself in the Yakuza universe, like say the Fallout show?
Right. That's what I'm wondering out too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with those, it's better to do your own thing. You know, take a maybe a side character, but hopefully even just completely new, unrelated, just set in the world, and do something different with that. Because if you try to recreate, you know, any of the iconic character stories or beats, it just, I think, you know, you won't be able to do it well enough. And if you do it different, then people will hate it. So
right.
You're also gonna like draw constant comparisons, right? Because that's what we saw with Last of Us, where there was constant comparisons between like, oh, I prefer when Troy Baker delivered this line, but I prefer the way
of course
Pedro Pascal delivered this line at this moment and whatnot. And people were constantly comparing specific scenes and executions of specific scenes one to one and whatnot. And I feel like that can be a bit of a trap, probably for people adapting that stuff.
What do people in chat want? Personally, if they're going to do it, I absolutely think they do not want to cover those guys, the main characters, unless they come in as side bits. I think it's best to just be like, here's a new guy.
Yeah, like cameos, that could work.
Cameos, I would absolutely be ecstatic for, but the idea of following one, I think those RPGs are so depthy and people have their own experiences. And like I told you guys, I've watched people play Infinite Wealth for well over 100 hours between Reg. I probably watched 40 to 60. And then another 30 or 40 of, I believe it was Dev Guy. And so watching them play, they had their own experiences. They were completely separate. But some things also don't translate well. For example, in Infinite Wealth, they spend 20 hours building their own little city on an island. That is it's a gameplay mechanic, and it makes sense in the game. But in the show would probably be a small thing or show progress, a montage where he's nailing, boards. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes on in that game that a
lot of it is gameplay driven, right? That it doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, and I'm okay with. I like the idea of. I think cameos are done well because if it doesn't work, socially, you get word. People are like, that cameo did not work. Great, you don't have to do the cameo again, but if people say that character and that actor was awesome, then you start looking at in the future episodes, you know, do you roll out this guy for another cameo because people like it?
Seeing just a little bit is like, whoa, that was Kiryu. You know, like you see the back of someone and they kind of imply that it was Kiryu. Like,
walking through the background or something like that, where you just get those sometimes less is better moments. And I definitely think with Yakuza.
Someone in chat said it was Yakuza 1, Kiryu confirmed.
Yakuza is it? 1. Okay, but that's long ago enough that I'd probably be okay because I don't remember shit about Yakuza 1. So, and it probably had way less of the big gameplay chops that we're seeing in the new ones that are super extended. All right. Well, depends on who they get, right? Because that character portrays a lot of different emotions, even though it's a goofy game. There's a lot of different things that go on in that game that you would have to display correctly. But
okay, interesting. Yeah, looks like it is confirmed.
Okay, I can buy into that. So, Yakuza 1, let's see. Did Yakuza 1 have any big gameplay asides like the new ones with the island or huge job systems or, you know, like any of that kind of stuff?
If I remember correctly, it was more about the mini games and, you know, the side stuff like that. Not as much like fully fledged systems like, you know, the job or the island.
Were you a hotel manager in that one, Johnny? Could you be the could you have the hostess honey what's it called?
That's a good question. Yeah. I don't remember if you could.
Okay.
I don't remember it that well.
Kig threw out a super chat, $10. Thank you, Kig, for always being there in the voice chats and in the Discord. Best intro is Mass Effect 1. Everyone talking about the Shepard you made, then giving you an explanation in text, the music. Oh my God, now I want to play it again. I absolutely, fully, 1000% agree. That was one of those times where it feels like the guys who were doing the music, the writing, and the game all worked together at the same time. There was nothing tacked on. That was it was an incredible beginning, in my opinion. I know that some people didn't like one, or that starting, but
I have my issues with it, but that opening is amazingly executed.
Dude, when you choose your background and then they just talk about it right then, you're like, I want to be, I can't remember what it is, like not Outcast, but it was like Soldier, City Rat, or whatever. You know, there were the overlapping ones that we sort of get with Cyberpunk, like guy raised on the streets or whatever. And they're like, what about Shepard? He was raised on the streets. He can do it. He can think outside the box. And I was like,
it was Earthborn, Colonist, and Spacer.
Spacer,
I think.
Okay.
Yeah. You're either born in space on a colony or on Earth.
Yeah, I thought that was a great opening. It fit with the character. I think as we look at how games go, sometimes I feel like the opening it's like not everybody working together. It's almost like they just try to hit certain things, and that one hit the music and the writing and the game at the time. You were seeing that character. It just, I don't know. It all worked well for me. Sometimes I feel like with intros, it feels like the music's tacked on sometimes. It's like this just big crescendo, and it feels a little generic at times.
Yeah, and done separately than the other stuff in a way, like...
Yeah, exactly. Know. I don't know how to describe. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is where it feels like you can almost tell this was written over here in a silo, and then it was just, the crescendo will happen when the character is shown. But it doesn't have their theme or doesn't feel right with Jack Wall's music and stuff. It all sort of overlapped perfectly. Let's see. So people seem to be happy about it. Jemmy5404, $5 super chat. The game on the poster was one of Japan's most famous, beloved actors, and many hours of makeup to recreate Kiryu.
Oh.
Interesting. Okay. Well, hey, I mean, how much? So they're choosing a popular actor and then using makeup to get him to look like him. That's interesting. That's not what I expected. Okay. I guess that's the way you have to do it, because just because somebody looks like the actor, it may not be. They may not either be able to pull it off acting wise. Yeah. So you sometimes have to go out of the. I just saw something. I don't know if you guys have saw this, but I saw Walton Goggins talking about the Ghoul and big talks he had with what's his name? Todd Howard about if he was going to play the game prior or not, because the only time he had heard about it was through his son, and he decided you guys can disagree or agree, because I think I'm on both sides. It's pretty cool that he didn't play it, and his reasoning for that was that he believed everybody there was absolutely protective of the world and the way everything was going to be represented, and he could trust that what they said he could fit his mold into. However, I am also a believer that the person should play the thing that they're in, like Halo, the director saying, I didn't ever play Halo. But I think that's the director versus the actor. In this case, it obviously worked. And that there is no, if you play the game, what are you going to really, it's not really replicated in the show in that way.
I think there's also I think that's very common for actors to sort of try and stay in a bubble, kind of, where they don't try not to let their performance be informed by the
some
performances
prior
of others.
Yeah. I think it's also very different in a story like The Witcher, where the character itself is a very big part of the
onomatopoeia of games kind of thing.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
When you think of The Witcher, you think a lot about Geralt himself. But when I think about Fallout, obviously your character is a bit of a husk, right? Like it's not like I personally don't remember particularly the protagonist of Fallout 4, for example. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't feel like characters are that integral to the world.
Also, in that particular instance, it's even more difficult because, like, the main character of Fallout 4 is a cipher. Like, he doesn't have a definite personality, or they don't have a definite personality, because, I mean, you choose all their dialogue and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Frankie Donuts, $10 super chat. Just with the truth, just straight facts. You guys rock. Thank you very much. You do too, as well. I appreciate how many games you play. Frankie and Jay Reaper and Takedown now are the three most jump around Discord people I've ever met in my life. I will go in and they will play 10 games in the time it takes me to sign in and say hi to everybody. I'll be like, sitting down, get the mic all set up, and it'll be like, so what? And I'll just see fucking Frankie, man, just bouncing. He sticks with some stuff. He's stuck with Dragon's Dogma, but it's always funny to see those guys just leaping into it. Gemini 5404, $2 super chat. Sorry, I meant Hollywood makeup for the back tattoo. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so, all right. So they chose to. So it's the actor pretty much normally, but it was the big tattoo on his back.
Big dragon.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I mean, I don't know how important it is for the character to look, the actor to look that much like the character. Like, Pedro Pascal doesn't look that much. I mean, he does to some extent, but he doesn't look that much like Troy Baker Joel.
Yeah, and certainly, totally Ellie's character looks quite different.
And it still works.
It still works
in that show.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I think the real thing with makeup is if the main character has a particular thing that is known about them.
Like a scar,
or a big schnoz, and then you got to get Adrian Brody out there to play him. It's always Adrian. Sorry, Adrian, if you listen to video game podcasts, I apologize. Hopefully you don't, and you're doing something better with your life than what we are. But yeah, I completely agree with that. They don't need to look identical. And we see Ellie and what's the other one? In the game that Caitlin Dreyer got the part of.
Abigail?
Abby. Yeah, doesn't, Abby. Dude, you couldn't be as separated as those two are. When you look at, I mean, and by the way, she's a phenomenal actor. I'm sure she'll nail it. She's one of my favorite actresses. She nails everything she's in. She's funny when she needs to be.
She was
she's
in
really
Justified,
serious.
Right?
Or she was in Justified. She was in Last Man Standing. Yeah, so she can definitely nail that. But it is interesting because the physicality that existed in 2 is not there currently from what we see. But it doesn't mean that she's not bulking up. She could be calling up The Rock and being like, dude, I need to put on 40 pounds of natty weight right now.
Doing a Christian Bale.
Dude, Christian Bale, man, dropping for the push-ups in the middle of Batman. Yeah, that would be amazing. But to me, you're absolutely right, Silver. Yeah, they don't need a ton. Maybe a little bit of a overlap would be good enough. Jemmy says, yes, exactly, Silver. It's the vibe. And they said he will focus on Curious Badass, but Heart of Gold. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think it makes sense. Sounds good. Moving on from there, unless there's anything to add, Johnny, about
that's it.
Amazon show. Got to tell you guys, couldn't be more happy. I want more.
We're seeing
shows.
more. We're seeing more. Yeah,
I mean, I just actually got around to watching Fallout this week.
Let's do it. No spoilers on big stuff, but first of all, you and I talked about this prior to the podcast. So how did you watch it, first of all, and then what did you think?
I watched it over the course of like 3 days. So like a couple of episodes a day, like two or three episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's probably the smartest video game adaptation I've seen.
Silver said something super positive about a TV show. People, I just want to no complaint right there. Go for it. Sorry.
Like I really appreciate the approach they took to like adapting a video game license, both in that they're not doing any specific story, they're doing their own thing, which gives them a lot of leeway and a lot of freedom, where they can avoid a lot of the direct one-to-one comparisons we just talked about that people have done with like Last of Us. But also just the like, because I mean, probably the hardest thing, and you talked about what's going to be one of the big challenges for Yakuza is getting the tone right? Because these are games that play the same thing with like Borderlands as well. Games that play a lot with striking a tone between being like satirical, parody, humorous, but also earnest in some way. Like that is one of the main things about Fallout, is that it's always earnest, even though it's also kind of silly. But I think they really nailed that with the show. And I think I also really appreciate them taking like the three different protagonists and them making them kind of archetypes of player behavior. So you have like the vault dweller, the goal-oriented player, and then like the more murderous, sort of homicidally inclined player, sort of as different sort of archetypes going through their campaigns. And you have like the sort of tongue-in-cheek video game references, like the companion who gets to log around all the stuff with a huge gear pack, and just little touches like that I think really, like there's stuff that only like the game audience or people sort of familiar with the game, people who are already in the know, are going to catch on, but I think really enrich it as an adaptation. And I think they really help inform, because that is one of the key things that you need to keep in mind, I think, when you're adapting something, is why are we adapting it? What do we want to do here that we were unable to do or restricted from doing from like the video game? How do we want to use the license for this particular kind of medium? What does this particular kind of medium allow us to do with the license?
Right.
And I think that's something that they executed exceptionally well with the Fallout show. I also really appreciated the appearance of one of my favorite Fallout characters toward the end, without spoiling anything, and that they might be playing a greater role going forward, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that they did a good job onboarding people. If my mom and dad are talking about it, they did a good job.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can go, I think it was Frankie, I could be wrong, but I was talking to a Discord a couple days ago. We were all talking about games as shows and why I cared and why we even cover it in this podcast, because we talk about it in depth a lot of times. But one of the reasons why I do is because I got into many of my entertainment things that I enjoy from a side thing that wasn't necessarily the deep dive that everybody who was involved already was in. And the idea that my mom and dad hear the music, which is probably their time frame of music anyway. I think it would be their time. Maybe they're not that old, but it's pretty close to some of their timelines of music. Then they see these characters. The idea that I can talk to my mom and dad and say, what did you think about the Indian, or what did you think? They like Kyle MacLachlan, for instance, the Twin Peaks guy.
Twin
They're big
Peaks,
fans. Yeah. And I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Like, dead on, I'll watch him in anything because he's just a fucking nut. I never...
Yeah, he nails it.
Dude, he's got that... He acts like he's there, even though he's not. He's like a better Nicolas Cage. No shade to Nicolas Cage. But, yeah, the idea that we can all talk about it, and that they see such success, and then again, so we can see other games, you know. And honestly, guys, I do believe, whether this is true or not, one nice thing is they know everybody played the games. And with Halo, the TV show, we know they didn't. And I'm hoping what that causes is people to say, well, we can do it this way, or we can do it this way. And one did this and with a big title, one did this with a big title, and one is obviously larger than the other and hits many points. And by the way, it's weird that we're discussing this, because the Halo discussion for the TV show is almost always what is different, what does not feel accurate. That is almost always, even if somebody says I like it, they'll say, but this didn't feel this didn't feel accurate. When you talk about Fallout, it's almost all about, hey, this feels accurate. They did a good job with their fan service. They did a good job nailing this. And I can't wait to see more stuff from games. You know, I'm not talking about anime.
Yeah.
Anime is doing quite well. But when it comes to live action, goddamn, live action is a huge ask from a studio right now. Because if you fail and you make 10 episodes of something, you're asking some company to foot up 200 million, 300, 400 million.
These are
to do your
huge
series.
Productions.
Yeah.
So, dude.
Spec Labs gifted 10 ACG memberships. What's up, Spec Labs? Hope you're having a good day and enjoying your week. They killed Halo show as soon as Master Chief removed his helmet. Yeah, I would say that was a little weird, right? The Master Chief removing his helmet was just a little bit odd. Dragon says, I know this is late, but I got the notification through YouTube. Thank you very much. I think a setting was off. I was hoping to not do that, but we still had a good number of viewers before that notification went off, so I'm pretty happy with it. Lucid says, I have no interest in the Fallout games, but I really enjoyed the series. Other than the music, I'll add that for you because you have complained about the music to me in multiple voice chats. He does not like that music, and I get where he's coming from. The only reason I like it is because I played the games first, and I had to hear it, and I think I had to like it. Otherwise, I would have stopped modding that game. And now I do like it, but I get where he's coming from. Let's see. Sailor Mercury says Cowboy Bebop was one of the most expensive disasters Netflix has done. Oh, and Messi says, I want a Mafia TV show. That would be good. Yeah, there's a ton. There's a ton.
I could see that.
I guess. I mean, we've kind of gotten that like in all the Mafia related TV shows
we
that
got
weren't
a lot
about the
of
game.
Mafia.
I mean, because I mean, the game is kind of just a video game adaptation of like Goodfellas and whatnot. Like, I don't know.
You don't feel like there's
guess
enough to explore there because it's actually the reverse. We've had the shows prior to the game.
Yeah,
see.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I don't see what. I guess I just don't see what a video game or what a show or movie adaptation of Mafia would really bring to the table.
Well, no, I agree. I agree fully, but I do think people are probably talking about particular characters they liked in the game, and they just want to see those replicated, even though they are duplications in many ways of the other other
heavily
actors
inspired.
Heavily like Joe Pesci's I forget the name of the character in Goodfellas. But yeah,
feeling like it's already in Mafia.
Yeah, basically being Paulie from Mafia.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I get it. I get the thought process. There's more of a stretch available for other games, I think would be the thing. Continue talking about this. I'm going to let this dog out. It might take me a little longer than normal because I got a crip walk out there with my bad foot. But I did want to say, is there any others that we can think of that are huge that aren't anime style that we would like to see, especially now that we've seen Fallout do well? And let's go outside of Gears, because I know a lot of people are going to say Gears. Okay.
Yeah.
I got to figure this out.
Whoa.
That's a good question.
I didn't catch.
What do you think?
Catch the question. What was it?
Oh, if there are any other games, like big games, that would make for a really good series that's not Gears.
Yeah, the problem is just like, coming up with it. Yeah, because now that you put on the spot, the mind just
put on
goes
the
blank.
spot.
Yeah,
I think a lot of the sci-fi stuff is trickier because those are really big budgets, right? So they are kind of like very heavy risk. So if you said like, let's do a Mass Effect, that's
what about this? Spec
think-
Ops says he'd like to see Days Gone, but I feel that because it's zombies, people would overlap it with Walking Dead too much.
I think so.
right.
Yeah.
And
I think you
a
could
biker.
actually do something
Go
with
ahead, sorry.
fear, like first encounter assault recon.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
where you could do something a little different with that. Just use like the hook of setting up like a paranormal unit,
Mhm.
and then sort of going from there to like the Alma experiments and stuff like that. Not necessarily making it action focused, but more sort of horror, paranormal focused.
I think along
that
those
could
lines, Dead Space could work pretty well too.
Oh, Dead Space could definitely be adapted.
Yeah.
Like already has somewhat to like there was a Dead Space anime that was actually I thought
not
somewhat
bad.
decent.
Yep, I watched it too.
So you could definitely do different stuff with the Dead Space license. There's a lot of room for that.
I personally feel, and I think we've talked about this one before, I personally would love to see Mass Effect. I think the amount of money is difficult because, we see like
for sure
Orville, and we see how much that's cost, especially as they went more battle heavy in last season.
That's what I was saying. I was thinking exactly of the Orville.
And by the way, you're never going to hear a studio say what they said to him, which was, you spend as much as you need, and we'll just see if it does well enough to do the another season. And we haven't got another season yet, but he got as much as he needed, which is just so rare. You just don't hear that from these kind of situations. But yeah, it's definitely difficult. It's sort of I think Elder Scrolls, somebody mentioned, I would like to see that kind of stuff. I think that we're probably also missing the fact that a bunch of what we're mentioning probably already has their IPs sold to production companies already. And whether they ever get made or not is another thing. But I just have this feeling that like a lot of these we're talking about, we're so late probably, because I would say with Yakuza, it's announced, they already show the actor. It's like, we're going, right? And then Last of Us, we knew about for a while because it was the game makers helping it. Same thing with Fallout. But Fallout was pretty short, too. It's like, here's a Fallout. And I think a lot of us were like, I bet you there won't be a Fallout. How are they going to do a show? But I think with a lot of these shows, their IP is probably already in the hands of some company that's trying to figure out how to do it already. Metal Gear, Vampire the Masquerade, Yakuza.
Metal Gear, I really don't think would work.
Metal Gear would be weird, right?
It would. Yeah.
Well, what about Splinter Cell versus Metal Gear? I think Splinter Cell's easier.
Splinter Cell would much easier.
Yeah, I think Splinter Cell is like, somebody else mentioned Division. I firmly believe the Division would be amazing as a TV show. I think there's a lot of stuff that goes on in the Division that would be great with the different gangs and groups, but
lots of great set pieces with the city and everything.
Yeah. Aries says, I want a Devil May Cry show. And Red Dead. Red Dead would be fun. I don't love Westerns, but I would definitely watch that one. And then
I think that could work because we don't see a ton of Westerns as well, so maybe something different.
Yeah, unless it's Yellowstone, Westerns just difficult to be made. Back to the leaks and rumors or just discussion of the new event. There's also the Call of Duty event that's coming up. I'm sure you guys don't care about this, but it popped up in the chat about zombies. So I don't remember if there's ever been a separate zombies version of Call of Duty. What I mean by separate is sold separate. I don't think there's been one. I could be wrong because there's so many Call of Duties. There's open worlds. There's the normal. There's the remakes of the remasters. And I can't remember where zombies goes and what packages they've been put in. But I do think that I sort of sleep on zombies sometimes because I've actually liked the zombies side games in a lot of the ones I've played. Not every one of them. But I was looking at where we are with a zombies title and stuff like this, and where we are with games that release a full single player full multiplayer, and then a full side mode like zombies. And I'm wondering, I mean, at some point it feels like that's a lot of real estate for a developer to cover and get them all good. You know what I mean? Like, we've already seen it where sometimes the single player game isn't good and the multiplayer is good. Sometimes the single player is great and the multiplayer is tacked on. But those guys are trying to do multiplayer, single player, and zombies. And I don't know about you guys, I sort of want zombies split off. It sounds, I mean, it's probably everybody hates that idea. But I feel like these companies are trying to hit so many. I mean, zombies is its own mode. Like, it's its own thing, its own AI.
I think you can download it separately now if you just want to play that. I believe so.
But it's still in the package, I believe.
It is.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Anybody in chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I'd definitely like to know what you guys, like, if anybody agrees with me. It's just, I hear so many people loving zombies. And I feel like there's just no chance of it ever getting the full love it deserves. And I really actually sort of like the zombies. You know, the times I went in with Takedown on one of them, probably the time before.
Yeah.
Time before. Can't remember how many times ago it was with Call of Duties. Jesus, that's the problem.
If you flesh it out into its own game, almost like Back for Blood or, you know, this type of stuff.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
The one Rebellion does with the Sniper Elite series.
Oh, yeah, dude. Shooting the dead,
well.
shooting zombie. What is that called?
I forget what it's called.
Zombie Army. Zombie Army. Is that right? Zombie Army? I feel like that's what it's called. Damn it. But yeah, that one is great. I think they did a spectacular job with that for sure. Let's see. Round-based zombies is king. Oh, because one was not, right? Zombies has been getting neglected in favor of Warzone, so breaking off would be good. All right, so I'm not alone. There's one person who agrees with me. Warhammer would be cool. Oh, you're talking about shows, Frankie? Warhammer? There are only 23 Call of Duty games. Should be easy to keep track. Yeah, only 23. I can't even keep track of 23 of my friends' names, let alone 23 random Call of Duty games with remakes over the top of remasters, open world free ones. But yeah, I would love to see. I'd love to see a separate.
Dude, what if we see some GTA 6
at the event?
You think it's possible? Too early?
Dave, I think it's been confirmed that there won't be any GTA 6 stuff.
I agree.
What I've seen.
Oh, really? Ah, shit.
I think that trailer was so cultivated.
It was.
That it takes a shit ton of time. And
yeah, and it's also not like Rockstar to show like they have a history of just showing the trailer.
Yeah, they just get to work and
yeah. I mean, don't you guys believe it was like the #1 viewed video in like 7 minutes or so? I don't know, whatever it was, but it was millions instantly. It was
crazy.
It's unrealistically unbelievable to the numbers that no human even, you know. It's just like you look at it and you're like, all right, so multiple entire
it's like
nations.
Taylor Swift, basically.
Yeah, like Taylor Swift dropping another breakup song. So people are going to be mad about that comparison. They're like, oh my God, you sullied one of these two.
They're not all breakup songs, okay? It's just most of them.
Some of them are love songs about getting ready to break up. But no, dude, I don't think they have to do anything. I think GTA is, it's its own juggernaut.
No, I agree with you. There were a couple of Japanese games that I think will pop up. Like, for example, the Metaphor game, which is the Persona-like. You know, that's kind of a big one. A lot of people are expecting that. I think it will hit big once it does come out. And then there is the Dragon Ball game. It's kind of a return to the Budokai style.
Oh, really?
A little bit more like, 2D. Budokai style. I think it was called Sparkling something, which was garnering a lot of, attention from fans and stuff. So I think that could be cool. Dude, I forget exactly the name.
Sparkling?
It's Sparking or something.
Wow.
I need to find it.
Jay says, excited for Metaphor, but not my lack of free time this year. Sparkling Zero is what Random Victory says.
It's not Sparkling. It's Sparking.
Sparking Zero.
Exclamation mark.
He wrote that correctly too. Yeah, I don't quite know, exactly what that naming convention is all about, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
Would you guys support a $110 or $100 GTA 6? I don't support shit. I buy games. If the game is good, I'll buy it. But $110, that game better be the best game of all time and all times time and times of time. It better make old games look better just because they're on the same PC. Like, that would be, I don't even, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, 110 would definitely make me go, I'll wait for a sale probably.
Bro, I mean, I don't even know. It's such a big jump. The 70, 80, makes sense. We saw it. Dragon's Dogma released at 70. That is
it's basically a 30% jump, if not more.
Yeah, 30 something.
Dude, can you imagine the outcry would be high. People would still buy it, right? But there would be a lot. That's a time when you would see people really looking at, like, waiting for sales, or who knows? I mean, like, piracy. Like, that's such an unbelievable amount of money. And people say they deliver it. I agree, but they chose to deliver it. Like, they could, if they wanted to deliver something smaller for 60, that's fine. If they choose to deliver a game at 110, they choose to understand many people just simply can't get that.
They kind of make it into almost a luxury product at that point.
At that, right? At that point, it is quite literally buying, the super expensive shirt that looks identical to all the other shirts, but, costs more because
I think at this point,
by small children somewhere.
They are more interested at selling to the masses.
I think so too.
Yeah, and getting them into GTA Online so they can hawk all the shark cards.
Yeah, I would, guys. I just don't think you need to worry about that. I think they figure that they can make more sales at 60 than they could more income at 110.
Yeah,
like, that is just, there would be, and just the bad PR and oh my god, yeah, 110.
I think so. We could be wrong, and maybe we'll see the first $110
Dude, can you imagine though what it would be like if you woke up?
I mean, it also wouldn't surprise me, because I think if there is anyone who could make the calculation that we could probably still shift a lot of units at that price point.
They could, but I just feel that they would shift more than double at 60. Because 110 is one purchase, like, damn, you would have to, I mean, that's a lot.
I think unquestionably you would shift more units, but the question is then, would that necessarily translate into a greater profit ultimately?
I just feel like the people who would buy it for 110 would even be more, like, I don't know, but it just feels like they would spend less on
because these are also the people.
I'm also not putting anything past Strauss Selznick whatsoever.
No, either am I. I mean, they can do, it can happen.
Remember that they're also double dippers. So, a game like this, you betcha they want to do, well, I don't know if it's confirmed, but I would imagine it's like PlayStation first, and then at least that's what we saw with the original, right? It was consoles first, and then a couple years.
Yeah, not PlayStation, it was console.
Sorry, not PlayStation.
Right. It's typically like a year and a half later.
Yeah.
For the PC version.
Yeah, and then a lot of people double dip.
Dude, I think people triple dip on this, whether it be a Switch and a console, a main console, what have you. There's going to be people quadruple dipping. And I'm just saying Switch because I assume it will be. They'll figure out some way, especially because they've said it's going to be. Yeah, Switch 2. Yeah. Yeah. Not Switch.
Not
one. I'm just going to call it to Switch because I think that's what I'm going to de facto
At this point, pretty much we should assume anytime we talk about a game coming out on Switch, it's
that we're talking about the next one up. Yeah. And then, so talking a little bit about the industry, Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, lost Warner Brothers $200 million, which is 25 more than the original 2016 movie cost to make. That's from PC Gamer. Very weird comparison there. That comparison doesn't really make any sense at all. But just talking about them, cost them $200 million. Can I also point something out and tell me if you guys agree with this? I was thinking about this yesterday when it comes to Suicide Squad. So they've been doing Batman, and Batman is a worldwide phenomena, right? Suicide Squad, for sure, not that in any way. And then add in service on top of it, and then go away from up close combat to ranged combat. It seems like that was set up for failure. Like, it seems like you would have that, bad taste in your mouth when you were making the game, because you'd be like, dude, what are we doing? This is like 7 degrees away from what even made us. in the first place. And there's been there's the story about the executives saw that service games were doing well, so they went and they sort of sold the guys on doing it. I don't know what sold them on doing it means. Sold them means you have to sell it to them and that they have a chance of turning it away. So I don't know if that really means they were told to do it or what have you. But I'm not too surprised. I mean, I had fun with it at times. It definitely drug on as I continued to play. But there were some parts I enjoyed. But for the most part, it was just a very shallow game that felt... it didn't feel like it had any of the DNA of the prior titles. So it's not too surprising to me. 200 million surprising. That just goes to show you how much a game and some PR can cost. Yeah. Like, that's ridiculous how much PR costs.
And not just a game, but like service games in particular, for like the server costs and everything related to those. It's up and running. Yeah.
Yeah, true. I forgot about that. Yeah, because you got to make sure that everybody can connect. But yeah, no, I just thought it was weird that, you know, it's an odd choice, and we'll hear about it years later down the road, but why exactly they decided that to add all those different things on. But to talk about another ad that blows me away, there's supposedly a Hogwarts director's cut coming. Did you guys hear about this?
I've seen the headline, but not the details.
So I know some stuff was cut, but what the hell do you add? Because Quidditch is its own game, right? Quidditch is coming out as its own thing, I believe. So what do you do to Hogwarts? Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. Now, if it's not and Quidditch is in there, is Quidditch deserving of a director's cut anyway? No. Like, what do you put in Hogwarts that's not already in there? Even if there's quests missing, to me, it's really fast to turn around a director's cut. And we're starting to see this a lot now, where the director's cuts are coming, you know.
It's like the good old Game of the Year editions.
Yeah, the Game of the Year edition, yeah, with one extra DLC or some, you know,
whatever.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's, to me, that's some mindfuckery. And by the way, I loved Hogwarts. Love it. Had such a great time. Continue to have occasional great times. In no way, shape, or form is a director's cut of that worth it. Like, I don't even know what they could do to make me say it's worth buying into, unless there was some, you know, like DLC expansion we didn't know about that they decide to add into the director's cut, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And by the way, I would also say, like, when stuff gets cut, it's for a reason. Like, I don't know if I want to go through a bunch of, like,
B-level tier stuff.
B-level dialogue that was cut, like, from the tavern person.
Here's another shop for the muggles. Here's another alchemy shop. And you're like, dude, it's the same fucking shop. Like, we're buying the same shit. And if you can't buy it, then you have to go and adjust the game to take in the new shit you can get. Dude, I don't know. Director's cut already. That game came out last year, right? Starting last year. 2023, March, February, I believe. Director's cuts need years. And also, I find it weird that they can't figure out another name. They're a director in a movie, maybe. But a game director, you have all these people working on it, and you're going to call it the director's cut. Call it, like, the team cut or something. I don't know. It
confuses me because you're the director. So didn't you cut the original? Like...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's always been a point of contention. Yeah. Well, yeah. Didn't you? You'll hear the theatric.
Did someone else cut your movie or the game?
This was the director's original.
Because that was the original source of the name, was that the studios would issue the cut.
Had chosen that cut. Yeah.
Had the final cut and had released the movie, and then the director would come out later with his cut.
But I think, haven't we moved past that? Because we see now these big directors with visions.
I think Silver agrees. Yeah. We've moved far beyond.
That was basically it. That it's become completely so watered down, that term.
That's stuck around. Yeah.
Yeah, it just feels weird.
But it's become meaningless at this point.
You got a couple new wands, man. You got a couple
wands.
Yeah.
Different textures.
What I thought was maybe they explode out you know how you built your own base. I can't remember the name for it. Not Reliquary. That's from Hellboy. I can't remember the name of your little home that you can make.
Like, I think it's notable that, like, you look at George Lucas. George Lucas has never made a director's cut version of his films. It was like when he went back and re-edited his Star Wars films, it was special editions. It wasn't director's cut.
Yeah, right. Version. It meant like here's
because he always had Final Cut on his Star Wars films.
True. Where some people don't, obviously, the studio gets in there and is like, we need to cut this, make it shorter. Now it feels like all the studios want longer movies. Every movie I go to, man, do you guys remember going to the theater? It was like 89 minutes, and now it's all 250.
Yes, but that shifted like in the 2000s.
I know it did. I hate it.
Yeah, I agree, because it used to be like 90 minutes, and then like 2 hours became like 120 minutes became the standard running time. Yeah.
Base says Zombies has not had a standalone. Okay, thank you for answering that. Room of Requirement is what I was coming up with. So Room of Requirement. Yeah. I love the idea of blowing that out, but do it as an expansion so that people don't have to rebuy your game. That's the other thing. If you do a director's cut, what are you not delivering to the people who already bought your game, which saw that game see such success? See, that's the problem with everything that we do in life right now. Even as a person who creates on YouTube, I have to make sure that whatever I create doesn't harm somebody, prior that, let's say, got into a patron level or something. You want to make sure you add, but that you don't say we're going to go back and like make it so that what you have is now worthless. You have a totally different version over here, which is like, you'll see it. People make multiple channels, have patrons for all three, and you're like, okay, come on. That you're sort of trying to get 555 from people. And it feels like the same thing happens with director's cuts in games. In games right now, if you want to deliver the data to the prior owner, great, that's fine. But we've seen it where they don't sometimes too. What was the Mass Effect called? What was the Mass Effect trilogy called? Legacy trilogy?
Legendary.
Legendary.
Legendary edition, yeah.
And that was remastered on the new Unreals, right? Wasn't that how that was done? That was stepped up to the new engine version, I think, as well.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played that one. But yeah, let's get rid of this director cut bullshit.
Yeah.
Let's see. Sony was using it for all their next-gen versions of last-gen games. Oh, you mean the director's cut thing? Yeah. Martin says, seems a bit dirty if they purposely held bad features to add them later and sell them. Oh, you mean like maybe features that weren't fully thought out? Yeah, that happens. But we also get sometimes where a quest, doesn't get, if somebody's built 90 quests and they can only get 75 in there. But that's an expansion, man. Like, I don't know. Figure out a way to do it, but don't harm the original owner of the goddamn thing. Just makes no sense whatsoever. Also, I saw a lot of people digging the shit out of the new Destiny expansion, so that popped. Final Shape. I played a little bit of it. I like the changes. Does it still have shitty inventory? Yes, it does. Does it change a bunch of stuff and let you take old weapons and do things with them? Yes, it does. Does some really good changes. I've heard a lot of people saying that they like it the most out of all the expansions. It's a good step for Destiny 3 10 years down the line, or however long we'll have to wait. But it is nice to see people feel a little bit rewarded for jumping into Destiny. It's still really cumbersome. And even choosing where you want to go if you haven't played for a while is confusing as shit. But I do like that they've gone back and changed a bunch of things and sort of added to it. We've got people in the Discord who are playing it who seem to really like it. Amutski and I talked a bit about it last night. I think Flip Cup is jumping in. Bit, I know, has jumped in. But it seems like overall people all agree on what we agree with, which is that, okay, they've nailed the shooting. They've nailed the loot. Now they need to nail what they originally sold the game on, which was story and atmosphere and all that. And so that's what you're looking forward to in Destiny 3, seeing them like move forward and say, this is, we want to deliver a full cohesive thing without half of our lore being on a fucking website, which is what I'm worried about, how they're going to deliver all that. Martin says Destiny is waiting for Destiny 3 to sell fans a new inventory system. It'll be the director's cut, the director's inventory edition. And you guys aren't returning to Division though. Or to Destiny, right? No chance.
Never played it.
So we can move. Whoa. I didn't know that. Yeah, either Destiny?
Nope.
God damn. What about you, Johnny? Maybe we haven't talked about this before.
I tried Destiny 2 once with Reg, but it was so overwhelming, like so many things on screen, and it's, everything is pick up 100 of this or that. I don't know. It didn't... I did like the gameplay, but it wasn't really that interesting for me.
Damn. Okay. Didn't expect that. For some reason, I thought you guys had jumped into that. I don't know why I did, but maybe when we talk about it, we always move on from it so quickly because there just isn't really much to say if you haven't played it. Ric Flair Randy says, how many times will Jeff say Kojima in the new show? I'm guessing 11. So, yeah, that's something. Do we think Kojima's going to show up at the Game Fest with another 15-minute?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So
they just love each other, right?
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. It's it's cool that
we don't shame.
I mean, Kojima has never been sort of shy about publicity, so.
No, and I think
too.
I see. Here's why I'm saying I'm not going to say I don't think it, but I think there's a chance it doesn't happen because I do believe Jeff also sees the PR too, and that it had a bad take last time. So my hope is that it doesn't.
What was the bad take?
A lot of people felt that, especially what we're going to talk about in a second, which is this sheer amount of money it costs to get on a Game Fest trailer list, was that this extra bit of time to once again blue ball everybody with OD or whatever the fuck it was called and be like, here's a thing, here's a picture of what we're covering, that it doesn't really matter whatever positivity a Metal Gear / Kojima / Death Stranding fan gets from it. The fact that Game Fest is really not about that, it just feels like that's not going to happen.
Preferential treatment.
Right. One's Game Awards and one's Game Fest. That's why I don't think at Game Fest it'll happen. Game Awards for I think that's sort of, it's almost like their pattern. But with Game Fest, I don't know why. I firmly don't think there'll be one at Game. I mean, what do? Do you have them come up and say it's still called OD or whatever the name of it? I mean, what do you because in this amount of time, has he worked on anything? Like, you don't quite know even what's been done enough to see. And to discuss all this, there was a sort of a rumor / article about the costs of getting onto Game Fest and Type Awards. So I'm going to read this a little bit. This was an insider who said this, but it has been backed up by a couple devs who stated along the lines of this being correct. According to pricing details shared, multiple marketing professionals who requested anonymity, running a trailer during Summer Games Fest costs around $250,000 for 1 minute, $350,000 for 1.5. That is correct. A full $100,000 more for 30 seconds. $450,000 for 2 minutes and $550,000 for 2.5 minutes. And that this pricing tier fit the exact pricing tier of the Game Awards. Some things that I wanted to add, and I don't know if it's been added, but I think it has, which is that, at least from what I understand, the people who run the bigger companies like Microsoft, Sony, and some of the bigger companies do pay for some of that advertising for smaller indie devs. So if you see an indie dev on an Xbox thing, they might pay for that kind of stuff. So there are companies out there that are helping these small indies. But if you look at that amount of money, and then you look at what we've talked about in the past, which is your vertical slice demo that used to be done at E3, but there's no E3 now. That price seems incredibly high, beyond belief high. But then I did see some PR professionals saying if the numbers are true on the full Game Awards viewership numbers and Game Fest viewership numbers, then when you look at the actual money that's spent, that is actually good return on your investment for what you're getting in views. So, let's say Steam, what do we call it? Wish lists. So there is the idea that works. Also, there were some people saying that the 30-second stuff doesn't work very well. 30 seconds is not enough to sell anybody, and it doesn't seem to be the good price point. It's either a minute or a minute and a half or beyond that. But I did want to add that, this is not like secret data. There's been multiple times where this has been sort of discussed, but that the bigger companies sometimes in some way foot the bill and sort of help them out that way. But I just still think it's insane amounts of money.
Just so I understand what you're saying, would it be, for example, that like Microsoft has an indie coming up that they want to push?
Yeah,
and they would maybe foot the bill for that.
Yeah, but I've also heard that like there might be deals where maybe one of the big companies says we want to show our thing, so we'll pay you a certain amount, but because we're showing our thing, this indie company
like
can
there's
show
a
something.
mutual benefit because the thing itself is drawing.
Yeah, it's drawing itself in, and again, we don't know, because these companies aren't going to talk about it too openly. But in the past, there have been discussions about some of the bigger companies in some way helping with a smaller company getting their stuff in. But you can bet that'll be vetted by one of the, like Microsoft saying, okay, this will be on an Xbox, so we're going to let you show, what was that, Solarium? No, it wasn't Solarium. I can't remember, but they had a couple, or Last Case of Benedict Fox, or something like that, and be like, all right, it's also on PC, it's a small indie developer, we're going to do it on our show or in our overlap of ours. But it's all sort of nebulous kind of details. I mean, PR costs a lot of money, but it seems like
it does.
It seems like that's a mind killer for, imagine you're a small dev. Silver said something really smart earlier. He was talking about, wish lists help you invest. I guess you could, if you have a lot of wish lists, say, we'd like you to invest in this by helping us pay for a trailer during this event. And you can see how well we've done with this wish list prior without a trailer. What do you think?
Yeah, it gives you something tangible to say when to sort of hold up when you say we have engagement or whatever on our game. We have driving interest.
I just think that money, it probably makes sense, obviously, because people are paying it. But that amount of money is so mind-blowing that it makes you think, how many co-carnages could we pay to stream our game for days? Or whoever else takes money for like streams, some big, get the right people, pay a PR company, get the right people to play your game. Is that worth more than one trailer?
I think the question is really like, because I mean, this is essentially what has replaced E3.
Absolutely.
And so the question is sort of, has that cost transferred over from E3? Because like you touched on, I mean, the cost for setting up a booth and trailers or vertical slices or whatever for E3 was also considerable in the past. So like the cost to benefit analysis of that transition, I think is what companies have to make in terms of, is it worth it? And does it drive the kind of viewership that you talked about, you've seen market analysts talk about, where companies feel like it's worth it? It would seem like it, but yeah, I mean, on the surface, it certainly is a lot of money for 2 minutes of airtime.
So let's say you were thinking of 350,000, right? What can you do in your game for 350,000? What can you add? Actually, I do have a couple indie devs coming, not indie, B-level devs. I'll ask them if they're able to talk about it. I have one who doesn't work at any major company now, so I can ask him. But I wonder what you can add if you didn't spend. So let's say you have $350,000 for development because you're not paying for a trailer. What does that realistically get you? I'll put that question down. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Silver? I just want to.
I think even beyond that, I mean, even beyond like the money terms, in the old days, like when you made like a vertical slice, like that wasn't the problem. There wasn't just like the financial cost. It was also just the resource cost of making that vertical slice was often 6 months or so of like development time for a dev team that had to do that thing. That was then taken away from like actual game development and dedicated just for that vertical slice, which was a substantial investment for a company, even outside of its like financials. Where I think where you just cut a trailer, and you don't necessarily offer up like a playable vertical slice on an in-person booth. I think that actually alleviates some of the pressure that used to be there.
Right. And paying for the booth, paying for people to cover the booth.
Yeah. But to what extent?
Right.
That is the case, I don't really know.
I just feel like one reason why E3 has gone away is because things travel at light speed now and everybody's got an internet channel and all that. So
for sure.
What can you
Yes.
get out of it, especially if you're not going to push the game forward? So let's say you're thinking we're going to do a trailer in 6 months. Oh, the game will come out in 8 months. We can't extend the game trailer. If we don't spend $350 on that and we choose to spend it on just development, what extra could we get? And that is interesting to me because I don't know if the return is very high on that. You may not be able to, because you could hire people, but then you have to train them. We were talking to one of the engine developers for one of the major games who was saying that when you bring somebody on board to a new company, and Johnny can attest to this, anybody who does software, whenever we'd hire somebody, we'd be like, all right, here's what you need to know. But then when they hired them, it was another 3 months of training to get them up to date because programming isn't as identical as people think. So you'd be like, okay, come in, but it's going to be 3 months before this guy is up to date on anything that he can be trusted, not because he's a bad person, but because it's a database or it's a game engine and this person has to create something from it. So I don't know if that's how you guys work, Johnny, but I know that when I was talking to Reg, he was sort of saying the same thing, where it takes a while for, even if the newcomer is highly talented, it's just going to take a long time for them to come to grips with whatever you're working on. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, of course, because you always have stuff that you developed in-house and, getting used to the workflows and how people use stuff. So, yeah, for sure.
Confucius Puff says, what's a vertical slice? That is where they cut a bit out of a game, start, end. They put 15, 30 minutes of a demo people can play, where it starts them out at a certain point, ends them at a certain point. It's called a vertical slice because a lot of times it's not the starting of a level or the starting of the game because those cinematics, music may not be done. So they chop out a section of a level that is representative, hopefully, of what they're going to be playing. And then you throw it up there and you try to get people to play it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically like a proof of concept of what you want to do with the game. It isn't even necessarily, the level might not even necessarily be actually featured in the game.
Used to not be,
but I
think that was costing too much to do a different one. But you're right. Yeah, there was for sure times where it wasn't. Yeah.
But basically what you want to do is you want to provide like a demo where people can try out the gameplay and get a sense of how the game plays and what it's going to be. And that's basically your vertical slice. It's basically a playable proof of concept for the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or, a lot of times how a novelist will release a chapter of a book that they feel is sort of represent. Yeah.
Is it the same as a demo, or is there some?
It can be. It is a demo in and of itself.
It is a kind of demo, yes.
Yeah.
But it also, I mean, you have to understand that at the point of time the vertical slice is released, the game is very much in flux.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So the final product can be very, very different down the line from the vertical slice that you're playing.
Yeah, it is basically just a demo.
It is basically just a vision statement for what do we want, what is the gameplay experience that we want to provide, what is it that we want to do with this video game? What is it supposed to be? Yes, it is for sure. It is is exactly what it is. It is a pitch in playable form.
Right. Yeah, because a demo is a lot of times it's even the fun, just a chunk of the game, that's going to be in the game when it releases, even though we've had some cases where the demo didn't quite represent or work, but still
I do want to
go.
Sorry.
No, I'm done. Go for it.
I want to point out something that the demos I've played for the majority of times have been dramatically different than the demo that's out on the show floor, because they'll try to make those a little bit more polished, a start and ending. And that way the person at the show floor doesn't have to say, okay, here's the full story. But when you go to play a game, sometimes in a closed booth, that person is there and that demo will be a little rougher sometimes. Even though the gameplay might be more advanced, it'll be more rough because they can explain to a person covering the game, and they have them under NDA or they have them under a signed contract to come to this event at a particular time. It doesn't mean that you don't go to the same lines other people do at your PAX Primes, but there are a lot of events tons of events that are particularly for people like myself who might cover the tech kind of aspects, where a company would be like, hey, do you also want to come and see do you want to talk to the composer, which is a different thing? Do you want to come and, look at this other level, but you can't show anything, which happens a lot of times. They'll be like, so the demos...
And they can give you some context. They might say, here's...
They do give you context. That's what I'm trying to describe. They give you a ton because it's not a sorry person being paid $8.50 an hour to sit on a show floor and explain the same shit 1,000 times and be hit on by a bunch of sweaty nerds. Like,
become increasingly insane.
Just slowly lose their mind on the show floor, like a BO and ball sweat, just nasty show floor that they have to stand on. And by the way, that ain't a joke. Those show floors are rough. They're rough. I feel anybody sitting there,
your
trying to explain
is still runs deep, I think.
Luckily with the PAX though, I got to go to events too, but yeah, for sure. Sailor Mercury says, I heard the Sandland demo wasn't great, so that might have turned people off from that game. Yeah, demos not being great can turn people off, but let me tell you a demo that Johnny knows well that did the game turned out good, and that was Liza P. Liza P's demo, I think for a lot of people was not representative of the game. And then for me personally, I would also say Stellar Blade's demo was not as good or enjoyable as the game. So you can have both. I definitely felt myself not as interested when I was interested when I played the demo of Stellar Blade, but there were things I had more questions on because I had played a demo. Wasn't Liza P also rough for you too, Johnny?
What's weird is it's technically the exact game. I didn't, after playing the game, I wouldn't be able to tell you this was different in the demo. But I think that, it just takes some time to click with you, the game.
Right.
And it's sort of just beyond what the demo has. Unfortunately, it's almost like you had to keep playing a little bit beyond the demo, and then it all starts to
come together,
to click. To come together.
Anybody who's watching, feel free, if you do leave or at the end of this, to please leave a comment on the page of the video itself. It helps dramatically in getting this viewed. So moving on from there, we got all the leaks. We got all that kind of stuff. We got the cost of PR taken care of, which is basically just huge. Tons of money, but can be well worthwhile. I do want to point out that I saw somebody
particularly
say,
in this day and age where visibility is so difficult.
Yeah, for sure. I saw somebody say, what about the games that don't do well without it? That is true. What about the games that don't do well with it? That's the thing about PR in your games, is you never quite know how they're going to go. You can have...
There's no guarantee.
None at all. So spending that money up front can seem like a huge thing. Team Monk says, does word of mouth reach as far as throwing millions to marketing does? It actually can. It's I don't know if you call it word of mouth, but if people really like stuff, the
biggest example this year is Helldivers 2, which didn't have a huge marketing
true
strategy going into it, but largely became successful as a result of the word of mouth.
Yeah, and word of mouth really can mean any type of communication. It can mean a Reddit thread that catches on because people say,
Twitter thread.
Hey, look at this, Twitter. Yeah,
hashtags. Yeah.
Yep. Hashtag sponsored coverage. But yeah, you never quite know. Bop says, says the G.R.R. Martin Association of Elden Ring had a huge impact, I think. I've always wondered about that, man. I don't know about you guys, but the Elden Ring stuff I could not even tell. I know he did the lore or helped with the lore, but it's like I didn't really hear a lot of people talking about the R.R. Martin stuff after the first little initial, he helped. It's because I felt like they downplayed it a lot. Like they seemed to downplay his, I don't know, his association
I think
after they
used it a
initially
lot
said
initially. Yeah, I agree with you. They used it a lot initially.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was almost like they didn't have permission to keep saying it or something. I don't know. It was weird.
I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree. It felt like there was a certain amount of time where they were allowed to talk about it, and then it was or maybe not allowed, but you get my drift.
Or they chose whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, man, DLC's coming up soon. I see a bunch of people playing the original game, deciding. Everybody in chat, if you decide to jump into Elden Ring, are you jumping in and playing the game up to that point? Are you jumping into an old character and just gonna come back to grips with Elden Ring and jump in? We've seen a bunch of trailers and previews. We've seen that unarmed combat seems to be highly effective in this. So basically a punch and monk seems to be quite like super effective. Would you guys ever jump into one of these with like unarmed? I feel like the weapons are half the pull, like what Johnny was explaining with his power pole arm thing. I'm gonna let my dogs in, but continue. Do you guys go ahead?
I mean, for sure, the weapons are a huge draw for Elden Ring. Not just like the real appeal of that game for sure is the sheer build variety you can do, and a lot of that is derived from the weapons, whether it's pole arms, swords, maces, flails, whatever, like staves, clubs, two-handed swords, great axes. Like you can pretty much ranged weapons, bows, crossbows. I mean, it's such a huge, diverse range of weapons that you can do and movesets with them. That really keeps the variety there. And keeps it fun to try out and experiment and see what works, what doesn't, what feels fun, what doesn't. How does this weapon flow in its moveset? How does that weapon flow? Do I like this? Do I not? And how much does this matter compared to how much damage I'm doing? That's the fun of using the weapon. I've said that maybe I'm doing a little less with damage than I am with a weapon with a moveset that I don't quite enjoy as much, but maybe it does more damage. And like all these determinations that you have to make are a huge part of the appeal of that game, I think.
They are. For me, there are two elements of the weapon stuff in these games. One is the fantasy of wielding a really cool or preposterous weapon. Maybe it's just a giant hammer, right? Like makes no sense, but it's cool. There's a fantasy to that. That's appealing. But I think also the movesets, like you were saying, that's very interesting because a lot of weapons have similar movesets. You know, you have families of weapons. The great sword, you know, a lot of them will behave pretty similarly. They might have one different special move or something, but largely the moves very often will be similar. So what can happen is you get kind of you know, a bit tired of the same movesets. And what's cool about the fists is that sometimes, depends on the game, they have a very unique moveset, even including kicks sometimes. You know, again, depends on the game, right? How they do it. But yeah, that's one thing where the fists kind of open you up to maybe a more interesting moveset. So the weapon itself is not interesting because it's just fists, but maybe how it's used could be cool.
It's weird too because Silver pointed out something that pops up in my brain all the time is that I'll use something because it looks cool, but it may not be at all optimized for whatever I'm trying to do. And you run into that moment sometimes where you realize how unoptimized it is, but you're still trying to force it because you like the look. There's the power fantasy
or the feel of it,
or the feel of it, even if when you hit, you're all, this is for sure not. And this happens to me with service games, like a Division or a Destiny, where I like a gun, and I'll be all, oh, I don't have what I need to upgrade it, but I'm gonna still use it, even though it's not raising power level in Destiny or in Division. It's not, you know, high enough to really do as much damage, and I'll still be using it because I like the damn sound of the gun, you know. But in a Dark Souls, I think you're forced sometimes, unless you have a lot of time. I think with unarmed though, it just doesn't appeal to me. Even somebody who does it in real life, you know, like MMA, the idea of going out there and punching a demon is not as cool as a big.
I mean, I can tell you,
axe.
The latest build I played in Elden Ring was daggers, dual daggers, a black knife sort of mobility build, and that was kind of annoying at times because the reach is so short.
Right, very limited reach.
Where you have to get so close, and with some enemies, that gets quite annoying. But so I imagine that being an issue with the fists as well. But but yeah, I mean, at least with the Black Knife, with the dagger rules movesets, you can get like movesets that make you very mobile. I would assume you can also tie, like that's the question, right? With the fists, can you? I would assume you can combine them with the weapon arts and stuff like that. Slot weapon arts to the fists or whatever, and combine those movesets maybe, like you can with the other weapons. Because if you can't, then all of a sudden that's a huge drawback.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I don't exactly know. I do know that it looks like they're adding enough that a person who's played a bunch of Elden Ring will have no problem finding probably one more thing that they can jump into, because it seems like that's one of the bigger elements to the game, is adding categories and weapons. And I don't know if you guys saw, but they had asked why it took so long. And the answer, which is a completely valid answer, it still sucks it took this long, but is that they wanted that sense of discovery to be identical in the DLC as it was in the original game. So they wanted to make a huge DLC. And I get that. I think that's a pretty cool idea. It did. I wish it was out last year, but I do like the idea of going back in. I was asking people how they are going to jump into this. Javier first with the super chat, $2 super chat. Gang, we watching Summer Gamefest. Pizza's on me. Yes, we are. We'll be jumping into chat in the Discord and doing that. Looks like people are saying that, let's see. I can see going unarmed if they include more incantations that pair well. That still leaves the absence of weapons. Ash, though, which is a huge draw for me. Oates says Elden Ring is an amazing game, but it doesn't have the same replayability for me. The Turd, I love that name. Third Turd. I was on a magic build at first, but eventually utilized the power of bleed damage. Tembo says bleed and poison was how they played it. Pi says continuing an old character. It feels like a lot of people are continuing old characters. I don't know if that would work for me. I feel like I would have to replay the entire thing. Cheesy D says Elden Ring is my favorite game ever. I just don't get bored, and I have 580 hours in it. Dude, 580 hours. Oh, yeah, Johnny has to go right now. He'll be back. Disaster Tourist, $10 super chat. 100% Elden Ring on console, then switch to PC. Is downloading 100% save cheating or generally frowned upon in your eyes? Having trouble getting motivated to replay? Dude, I would have no issue with... You bought if you're buying the DLC, you want to use I don't know what they're called, but like, what is that? There's a program, Cheat Engine. I think it's a program that lets you adjust your own saves. Adjust away. I mean, enjoy your 50. What does this game cost?
The only
60,
the only exception is if you're going to get to do like PvP or the stuff, stuff like that.
Yeah, true, right?
But as long as you're just like playing it offline or whatever, like playing PvE content, then yeah, go for it.
Yeah, because it seems like if you spent the money, you're jumping into the game, you do you. No issues.
Use a trainer that makes you immortal or activates God mode or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
Well, fine.
Yep. I think that it's completely fine, whatever way you want to do, as long as, like Silver said, you're not messing up anybody else's game. Nothing wrong with that at all. Sorry, I was just answering somebody in Discord. We also got some other questions, and that is, let me look here. Got some questions in Patreon. I hear Johnny coming back, it sounds like. Have any of you guys played 13 with David Duchovny as the lead? Yes, we have. You
don't remember Duchovny being the lead.
He is, yeah, in 13. Yeah, you know how I know? Because just about a week ago, Zariel happened to be playing 13, and I jumped in.
Right.
And yeah, he was in there playing.
But yeah, I played it.
Dude,
like the cell-shaded first-person shooter, yeah.
I loved how in that game the skills, like if you
I
had
also
good
read the
hearing,
graphic novel it's based on.
So did I, yeah. And there's a movie, not a good one.
Yes,
by the way,
with Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, yeah. But I liked how when you'd hear somebody, sneaking around a wall or whatever, you would see the tap, tap, tap of their feet drawn out like a comic book. Yeah. I thought that was a really smart
sound
use.
Effects, it was.
Yeah, it was just so well done. We were asked, Johnny, if we had played 13. I don't believe you have. It's an older game.
I was listening. No, I haven't. The remake was kind of a disaster, right? I heard.
not well
Oh
received
my
at all.
God, I
never
forgot.
played it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot. That, man, I burned that out of my memory. It was that bad. Like I completely burned it out of my memory. I didn't remember that. What else do we got? This will be a slightly shorter one, I think, because it's been all leaks and rumors, which are just like, I just want this event to get fucking
coming
over.
up on the presentation, right? On the summer Gamefest.
It's at 2. It's still an hour and 10 minutes away.
Oh, right.
It's 1 for me, or well, 12:50. But do we have anything else that's been major or cool or anything that's like come up, tech game wise, that isn't like involving leaks? I feel like the leaks discussion, like I said, I want the event to be done so we can just get past this and start talking about things we know and isn't just apology tours after somebody says something on a fucking podcast. It's like, it is so mind numbing now. I just want to talk about shit we know.
I saw someone talking about Silent Hill, the video they showed, and that they changed the character for modern audiences or something.
On which game?
So remember Silent Hill 2, the video they showed recently?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah. I thought the character looked quite bad. So I don't know, like, for what modern audiences they're changing it to. It just kind of seemed bad. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the thing is what audience, when you have, let's say you go the route that this conversation will inevitably lead to. Hottie versus naughty, right? So you've got your hottie character and you've got your naughty character, and not hot is what I mean. No matter what, there is going to be a group that's like, oh, this is realistic. This is Joe Blow, or this is, Sally normal. And then this is like, I like to look at this character because they're attractive in some way, Stellar Blade kind of thing. They can say it's for modern audiences, but modern audiences, obviously, as we can see, like a giant diversity of things. So just because this character doesn't appeal to me and I think looks quite rough and looks like we almost to the point of being like, what is going on with that character? It depends on how they play it out. I know they said something about the age of the character as well. That something about Silent Hills 2, the remake, something about the age of the character wasn't represented, I think, in the first one. They're trying to represent here. But I'm like, I mean, I do get that. I understand that. But at the same time, if you draw too much attention one way or the other, you're going to get the bad part of the attention as well as the good. I do feel that with Silent Hill and horror games as a whole, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but I would say as we've grown up with horror movies and games, it is usually pretty people getting killed because that was the thing. It was like revenge against pretty people. Pretty dumb jock.
That's been the staple of horror.
That has been the staple of horror.
Slasher, whether slasher films or
right
or whatever.
And now we're getting, well, what would happen if Joe Blow, the normal guy who, looks like me, goes out there, who ain't so pretty, and he dies? Are you going to feel closer if you see me get killed versus The Rock or, I don't know, Brad Pitt? Like, I don't know. It's just, at some point also, if you make it too noticeable that you're going one certain way or the other, that brings its own, its own discussion. In the end, if the game is fun, the game will be fun. If the character looks goofy, you'll hear people talking about the character looking goofy, but I feel like every game has an outrage right now, or every game has a...
Yeah, one way or another.
One way or the other, every game's got a weird thing going to it. I didn't really like the look of this character, but I also didn't see it in gameplay. And have you guys ever taken a picture at a family reunion where you're like eating a hot dog and your mom takes a picture and you're all, it looks bad? I want to see this in gameplay.
The freeze frame.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. We all have the mom who thinks it's funny as shit too. Because your mom thinks that shit's funny as hell to be like, hey, look. Go ahead.
I was not impressed with the character either, but it was not on the basis of any sort of attractiveness. It was just on the basis of it just looks off.
Yeah, I think
that's what I felt as well, was that it looked off or rough versus like a particular.
Yeah, because like attractiveness, I don't really care.
Right.
To be honest with you, I don't need a character to be attractive.
Yeah.
depending on their position in the story or whatever. But
I mean,
it just looked off as like a representation of a human being, I guess.
Yeah, right. No, that makes sense. Like almost more uncanny valley than you expect in today's current. Yeah, that is exactly
and it's
what
not
I'm
like
saying.
it's not like the original model was inspiring in that regard either.
Right.
But but yeah.
It's odd too because it's a remake of
you would
something.
hope for an improvement from the remake in that regard.
Right, and I guess that's what whenever I'm hearing remake, I'm thinking we're going to improve this, we're going to adjust this, we're going to, modern audiences maybe when it comes to mechanics, but we are seeing that currently there's also the social modernization of games where it's like, oh, we're going to change this completely, we're going to change this completely to fit whatever else, but they're forgetting that there also might be a group in the old group that's like, okay, but, at what point is it, what would the term be? An homage versus a remake? Remake's just with a weird looking character. Whatever. Such shit happens. We've had it before. It'll be one of those stupid things that pops up and
oh yeah, like Aloy or any of these. Yeah, for sure.
And the thing that always makes me mad is like, because a lot of us cover tech and game design and we love graphical art design. So when you do mention that something looks off, you can get easily grouped into a group that either hates it or likes it, whatever side that is. And a lot of times I'm just like, no, I just want to know if it fits within the game and if it fits, and I'll mention if something looks off because I got shit for talking about Control. And I was like, dude, I'm going to talk about it forever. Or like, if we sit here and talk about realism and let's say you do mocap and all that and the character looks nothing like the character, you have to go, well, why did we choose that? Why don't we do that? And if they explain it, I'm like, oh, all right, cool. All right, whatever. Like that makes sense because sometimes you have to do that. But it does feel like we're getting a lot of the modernization, not just in the tech and the mechanics, the full modernization of the character designs and stuff. Do you guys think that the movie Scream would make great horror games? Ricardo asks.
You could, yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, don't we already have it in Until Dawn and those kind of horror games already?
I think probably less with Until Dawn and more like something with like Friday the 13th, which is the I forget the name for it, the PvP 1 versus 4.
1 versus 4, 1 versus 5.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that could. But I thought more of like the intrigue of who is it type thing in Scream, because if I remember, that was a big part. Like you were wondering, like who is.
They got me in a couple of them. In a couple of those, I did not know who the killer was at the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd guess, but then they did a good job pulling the wool over your eyes and go, oh, maybe it's not who I think it is. So I love that kind of, the bad guys in your group.
Yeah, I thought like a Man of Medan type thing, but so you have some characters, you get to know them, and you're wondering, is he the?
Jemmy says, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if I'm not. He says, what about Scream, but it's like Alien Isolation? I don't know exactly what that means, but Alien Isolation, I mean, that feels like its own thing.
I guess where you're moving around a neighborhood while you're being hunted. Maybe
and you have to be quiet because they're like Jason Voorhees or something, where they can annihilate you physically no matter what. Yeah. I mean, even that's a trope. Like, that the jock couldn't be protected because Jason Voorhees was so huge. He just beefed up people no matter what. Like, they're all tropes. That's how horror's made, though. Sailor says, what about an Until Dawn version of Scream? More character story and mystery over Ghostface. Yeah, that's sort of what I was getting to, personally.
Yeah, but that's good.
The Quarry did something horror-wise, but it wasn't based on those characters, and I think technically Until Dawn is the same, where it's an outside entity coming in. So Silver was right in that currently Until Dawn isn't really like that, but I would love the setup of Until Dawn. You're always trying to, well, actually, no. Until Dawn did have now that I think about it, did have one of the people in
a little bit.
Yeah, I just realized that. I don't know why, because there was
a different way, but yeah.
Well, Until Dawn had 3, I think, or at least 2 different things occurring at any one time, one outside entity and then one internal sort of secret Hitler kind of thing where there was a bad guy hiding in there. Let's see. Confucius Puff says Ghostface is in Dead by Daylight. Yep. And I know a lot of people who love Dead by Daylight. I'm not a big fan of those kind of games. They don't really grab me.
I mean, they also made a Texas Chainsaw Massacre game as well, in that vein as well.
Yeah, pretty good games, but just not my style. Speaking of not my style, so Concord, we saw that trailer. It is a hero shooter kind of thing. There were people complaining about the character designs in that one as well, which I didn't have so much of an issue with. But when you guys saw the trailer, did it feel to you guys like there was just nothing related in that trailer to the gameplay at all? And it feels like we've got away from that. I feel like Concord feels old for two reasons. One, because it's a hero shooter and we have a bunch of those, or we have the big ones, I think, and they sort of hold on to it. But lately I've felt that trailers, even if they are CGI, they sort of replicate what might be going on in the game. I would
agree. You know what it reminded me of?
What?
Blizzard with their...
There you go. With their CGI openings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like World of Warcraft trailers, and it's a movie, and then you play the game, and it looks like my ass.
Yeah. And they're not doing the same thing. In fact, that's actually...
Yeah.
We talked about this before, and I didn't have a good reason why. I just felt that it was off, and I didn't have... other than it's CGI, and they weren't doing anything. But the longer I thought about it, the more I realized that the occasional ones we still do have always feel more representative of what's going on. And that one, they're in the inn... they're in a bar, space bar, or whatever, and they're talking. You're like, what is going on? And there's this weird combat inside, and then hero shooter. And you're like, whoa, that's those.
There's no shooting in the trailer.
Dude, wow. I dumped. Man, I went from being like, is this Star Wars Outlaws to what the fuck?
I mean, there is in the latter end where it does segue into the first person sort of representation of what the gameplay is supposedly going to be.
Just a weird one. We've been getting away from it, I feel. Not completely, obviously. It's always going to happen, but I just feel like that one in particular, even Destiny does a better job with it. Like, it's because I can still, it's like there's representations of sort of what they're doing, and I felt that in Concord, for a big amount, I couldn't even figure out what the game was about. Like, it was just such an odd thing. Joe Kern says, what's the consensus with the new Destiny update? I think it looks very positive from what I've read. Big Mac says, do you think PlayStation will give the same marketing power to Concord that they do with their other games? Or do you think they'll cut their losses? That's a good question. I hope they don't react to our response. I hope they react to if the game is good.
Sega and Hyenas.
There you go, right? That's exactly it. Even if your video gets negative views, blah, 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 I would much rather have them go forward with their... This is like what we've talked about where you don't get a novelist calling up a fan and saying, hey, man, who should I kill in Chapter 5? The same thing with developers. I don't want them asking me questions. They're delivering whatever I don't even want to get in their creative process too much. Early access, slightly different thing, but I'm still not even a huge fan of that. Let them make their thing, even if we all disagree with the CGI trailer. If that game is good, it will still do well. I really do believe that. The word of mouth, you'll get the videos where people are like, oh my God, this game is actually good. And then we'll get the redemption arc kind of stuff. And I'm fine with that. It just, I don't want them listening to us. I mean, don't listen to YouTube views. Don't listen to like thumbs up or something. I mean, what is that representative of when it's a CGI trailer anyway? Like, what are you thumbsing up? Your okay, really good trailer that has nothing to do with the game, or really bad trailer has nothing to do with the game. Doesn't have anything to do with the game. I want to, we need to get hands on with it. Is that one early access? Is Concord service and early access?
No, they said it was launching like towards the end of the year.
Okay. And then Robert says, what do you guys want to see from a Borderlands 4 game? This is Robert in the chat.
Yeah, I think it's in a pretty stale point right now. It's hard to, just adding more guns won't cut it because, we already have great guns. in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I do think for that one, unlike Civ, they do need to do something a bit different, evolve in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe some interesting biomes, maybe even move into something like vehicle combat a bit more. That could be interesting. Yeah, some
As
new
long as
fun
it's not
character
like
ideas,
Rage 2
builds.
vehicle combat. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think there's space in that IP for trying a lot of stuff that they could do. But I mean, I agree with Johnny to a large extent that I think the IP is in a tricky position at the moment, particularly in the wake of Borderlands 3. But yeah, I mean, what would I want to see? It's a difficult question to answer because, like, Borderlands 3 landed with a dud for me because I really did not catch interest in any of its characters or its presentations, like its character designs or the way the classes were presented. There was nothing there that made me go, "Oh, I really want to try that or play that the way it did with Borderlands 2."
Fair. I see that.
So I would want to see sort of. I missed that magic in 3, and what it was specifically that was missing in those character designs and those classes, I couldn't tell you. But I would want sort of that to try and maybe recapture that magic of, oh, that looks really, really fun. Oh, I really want to go try out that build for setting people on fire and whatnot. That was so much fun in Borderlands 2, and recapture that sort of magic.
Yeah.
What I want, full up, absolutely explode the detail within the worlds, get away from the age. The cell shading's fine, but they need much more enjoyable to look at worlds. They still are on that very drab looking places. Here's a rock. Here's
flat
a rock.
textures,
Very flat. Go
yeah.
nuts. Hype up your detail a ton. Weapons, all that kind of stuff, totally great. It needs to be seamless. It needs to have a completely different style of enemy, if not a, like a new faction, what have you. But they can keep the original, but they, are you being invaded by something? I don't know. But I would love to see a big change there. I would love to see them figure out a way to add new weapon types other than what we see with the typical elemental stuff. And again, I'm not saying I know how to do this, but I'm saying that we've seen it in other games. I would like to see some of that be added. The loot and everything, the way it pops is a little bit like one of the problems I was trying to explain to Jay a couple days ago. He's playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I was warning him going, you may not want to play a ton more prior to Shadows, because even if Shadows gameplay is different, your interaction with the game world will be identical. Hold Y to open an item. Hold A to grab this off the ground. Hold this button to climb. There's going to be the basic interactions that are same. Borderlands is still going to have those same things as well. But what they need to do is adjust it so that it feels and looks dramatically different. It can still be cel-shaded, again, but do we do forests? Do we do, unique locations where it feels like you're at a new place? Do we do destroyed cities or towns where there's more, you actually see buildings? What about destruction? We're looking at a time frame where a lot of games are adding destruction. You have cel-shaded looking places. I would love the idea of having the ability to...
That would fit really well with Borderlands.
Right, and because Borderlands is already so visceral anyway in what it's trying to do in post-apocalyptic, I would love to see the ability to destroy things, see things break, what have you. But not change. I don't mean like even go away from cell shading. In fact, I just mean look at cell shading as we can deliver it now, because I think they were going for that comic book look, but it also helped them with graphics and delivering polygons to the screen because there was less to do. But we're at a point now where the step up of the minimum that they were delivering is still what we see in Tiny Tina and 3. And I would love to see them massively increase that and give us new locations to fight in, new enemies to fight in, destruction, new weapons would be great, new elemental styles, and then create your own weapon. I would like for them to have some kind of system where maybe crafting where you're I see, this is why I don't know if this will work, because we just talked about this and I got sort of screamed down in chat, and I actually agree with chat, but I'm still going to say I like the idea. The idea of adding barrels to a gun so that it looks like a porcupine and shoots to the right and left and forward. Or weird shit. It shoots an AoE as well as forward, where you can add, or maybe it's a mod system that's just nuts. And that's the new thing that goes on the game. The ability to augment the drops we're already getting. Because, guys, it's been a decade and a half of the same style of drops. The Peter North facial pinata of fucking weapons from every chest you open and every guy you kill.
None of them is good. Like 90% of the time, there isn't a single.
Right. So the idea of going in there and really saying we want to deliver the same feel, but we want to augment it to today. This is what we were talking about with modernization.
Yeah.
It is really behind. It is really behind. And the only way they sort of got away with it was Tiny Tina being D&D. Being like fantasy. But I think that also shows that people wanted different anyway. And like I said, new locations. I want to figure out forests, figure out ways of adding detail to these games. I mean, we saw BioShock Infinite really turn BioShock, and you have BioShock Underwater, and you have BioShock 2 Underwater. You have BioShock Infinite, which is air. What can you do with Borderlands? If BioShock can do it, I think Borderlands can figure out how to totally tonally shift, but still feel a great deal like the original. But I did get yelled down on the mods thing, and I think that's probably because maybe it fits the aesthetic everybody likes of getting that purple gun or whatever the color is. It's purple, right? Purple. They only have purple's the highest.
Purple in that was the.
No, I think orange is.
Was there an orange that was like
legendary?
Relic or okay? So. We all like that. We love to see the explosion of items, but there's got to be something to it that's beyond, I've got a +1 to fire. I just feel like the customization would be awesome. More skills on characters. Don't release a game with 4 character classes. Release the game with a bunch. Maybe, I was going to say flexible skill system where everybody could choose from the same skill list, but I don't agree. Actually, it's probably a bad idea. Did they have a bunch of driving or cars in any of them? I don't remember. They had dune buggies in all of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you say boats? Because that's what I was going to bring up next.
No, I was about to say Borderlands 2 had a lot of vehicle sections.
Okay, so you got your vehicle part down. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a bunch of stuff you could do. You don't want to go too crazy. I was going to say
they have bikes and stuff. What I think would be great is if they had flying vehicles.
That's what I was getting at with the BioShock Infinite, by the way. Air, but I was trying to figure out how that would work, like air balloons.
That would be amazing.
Something. I don't know how you would do it. But I do sort of like that. And like I said, more enemy types, man. God damn.
Yeah. I think Horizon, they had a good crack at flying.
Yeah.
The latest Horizon, I think something like that could be good, but just kind of faster in a vehicle.
Yeah. Eternal says, could borrow from D4 itemization overhaul and the flexibility there. Borderlands was originally pitched as a Diablo shooter. Well, there you go. Robert says more higher difficulty levels. Abbreviated review said, have skill trees that aren't just one ability being upgraded. Confucius says, why not mix skill trees? That's what I was talking about originally, was sort of like the mix. Add some roguelike, maybe some procedural missions or procedural in-game content. Yeah, I could see that too. I think we're at the point now where procedural content can be really good if you do it right. And Borderlands seems like a perfect world to do some procedural stuff. Underground? Have we ever gone into caves or giant caverns? You know, we did? Which one?
All of them, I think. Or certainly Borderlands 1 and 2.
I think...
Yeah, there were some caves.
Yeah. Like...
Elden Ring.
Massive kind of Elden... Yeah, or something. But I think you're right. There's definitely tunnels.
There were some.
Caves. But yeah, you're right.
You're right. Borderlands 2 had some huge underground glacier rooms and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, continue that then, by the way. Would be awesome as well. Yeah, those would be good. And then change up the weapon types. What's our favorite game? What's that game with the shark gun? Armed and Dangerous?
Yeah.
Yeah. Throw some weird shit weapons in there that do just absolutely crazy stuff.
That would be awesome.
shoot somebody with a dart that inflates a balloon and they float into the sky. Like, do some shit that like makes me go, what the? That's amazing.
A good example of that was Enter the Gungeon. They had a lot of really interesting, creative weapon designs. Like there was one gun that was a bullet-shaped gun that shot pistols. So it was like the reverse. It sounds dumb when I say it, but they made it look cool. Like, you know, they had a lot of these cool ideas, creative ideas.
Yeah, Armed and Dangerous, I think I've raved about before. Like the corkscrew.
Sure. Yep.
The corkscrew in that game where you stick a corkscrew into the ground and then you twist it, and then it flips the screen upside down.
Yeah.
And then all the enemies fall off the screen and into the sky. And then it flips back, and then they all rain down from the sky again and die from fall damage. It's just hilarious.
Dude,
it's still one of my favorite weapons.
I would love for this. I mean, do you decide to have your own, you know, bases and stuff? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that they could do. I just feel like they're really behind the times in their look. They all feel the same, and I feel like there's a huge jump that they could do in presentation and still completely nail the post-apocalyptic cell shade.
Right.
Lucitan says, ACG, you know what'll make it a good game? Make it gotcha. Damn you, Lucitan. Always with your weird ideas. Space Meyer says, space travel maybe, No Man's Sky style, leaving the planet seamlessly and able to travel to the next planets. Some space pirates. Dude, I would be all for that. All for that. I don't know how it fits in the lore. I have no clue how it fits in the lore. Probably does.
It's tied to Pandora, I think.
Is it? Didn't you go to another planet on one of them, though?
I think you went to like the space station.
Space station. Space station. Yep, you're absolutely right. Ooh, a lot of people are saying space. Borderlands in space. Well, they did do Tiny Tina's. They could roll it off and say it's not Borderlands 4. It's Borderlands
they also
Space
did
Lords.
The other spin-off, the Aussie spin-off. Pre-sequel.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Borderlands pre-sequel. I say Aussie because a lot of the cast was Aussie.
Wasn't that still on Pandora, or?
I don't know, but there was a lot of like space or like space stations and
for some reason I feel like there was space in a lot of what. But here's my big question, guys. If I stated a location or a thing that happened, wouldn't it be quite easy to not know which of the Borderlands it was in? Like, I know which Halo has certain things, which Gears has certain things.
Like several of them have locations that
replicated.
They overlap.
That run through them.
Yeah.
That overlap.
Yeah. Go nuts, man. Yeah. And don't do what Lucitan said. We don't need no gotcha in our Borderlands.
No gotcha.
Game. No gotcha.
No.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Bad Lucitan.
Yeah, bad Lucitan. Benjamin says, has Borderlands sold well? I thought 3 did not perform. It didn't perform amazing, but I do know Tiny Tina, they did some posts on Twitter where they were very happy. I believe it was Tiny Tina's that had done well for them. So Robert again says, not again, but adds and says more raid in-game content. I also agree with that. I think that would be great. Vapor says, you did go to a bunch of different planets in Borderlands 3. Your hub was a spaceship. That's what I was right.
Right.
I was right. I was like sitting here going, why do I feel like there was like
true.
A base area and there was like places you could store stuff.
Planet.
Yes. Yeah. But again, that's how confusing it all is, because I also played the Telltale ones and they look cell shaded. So I'm overlapping Telltale games on top of Borderlands. That's how, Borderlands proper. But
and I mean and I think they did also open up for it in the lore with the like the star map that shows where the different vaults are. Vaults are not just on Pandora.
There we go. So there we go. Space pirates jumping around, do more of the space stuff. That would work. Each planet is totally different. We have seen different environments, but I would like to see even more. So there we go. Thank you very much for reminding us about that. That's cool. It's glad to hear it. That'll be about it for us. We're going to wrap this one up. If you're a part of the Discord or a YouTube member and in the Discord, you can jump in. We're going to be doing a sort of a sit down watching the Gamefest. Also, I may stream the Xbox event on this channel. Haven't really decided if I'm going to do that yet. It depends on how my foot feels. But currently, high chance. 50-50 chance that I'll be doing that. I'll try to see if these guys can come in. It isn't super high, But anyway, if you guys get a chance, I would love for you to come on by. You can join in the Patreon. You can follow Johnny at Johnny Plays Live on YouTube and on Twitch. What are you playing Saturday?
Correct. Saturday is the community day. We're playing some League of Legends. Monday, Wednesdays, I'm playing my Elden Ring DLC character that I'm preparing.
Excellent. And Silver is uploading to Silver Hawkins on YouTube your gameplay playthrough of, what was it?
Ghost of Tsushima.
Ghost. Hard mode, black and white, all the
Hard
time.
ass, black and white.
Lethal,
not hard
lethal.
mode.
Yeah, not hard mode.
Kicked in the balls
Come on,
mode.
Jeremy. Come on, Jeremy. Not hard mode. Kicked
Actually,
in the nuts
hard mode, I would argue, is actually more difficult than lethal.
Why is that?
Because enemies are considerably tougher, so you have to fight for longer.
So lethal is like glass cannon, right? Where you deal a lot of damage.
So if you're actually skilled, you end fights very, very quickly.
And I want to add also, right now, when we stop this, please go to the channel, to the actual video itself, and leave a comment. That'll be it for us. Benjamin Orem with the last of the super chats says, "Thank you, love what you guys do." We appreciate it, man. We love what we do too, for the most part. I mean, sometimes.
Thank you.
You know.
And by the way, if you don't have a comment, leave us your favorite emoji in the video.
Oh God.
We'll see what the
Come on. We know what the favorite emoji will be. It'll be a fucking
it's the
eggplant or something.
The eggplant.
Or a splash.
Yeah. Right.
Anyway, that'll be it for us. Peace out, everybody. I hope you have an awesome weekend.
Take care.
Bye-bye.